Uh, Hello? What the fuck? I forgot this is open. I just hear you groaning. You're about to hear some vacuums too, buddy. Stay baby. I'm a little late to my stream today. Had to take my dogs to the vet. Not for anything serious. They just needed to get their vaccines updated. Dude, my dogs are like, whenever I have just one of them, they're angels. Any of the three. When I am just walking one of them, when I take one of them to the vet, even two of them, they're just angels. As soon as all three of them go to the vet at the same time, they are fucking unbelievably hype. $30 minutes of ads? Bro, you're not getting any ads. What are you talking about? Bro, I'm gonna play an ad just because you're fucking whining. Get mad, little buddy. Go to Chipotle or go shop at Target or whatever the fuck the ad's telling you to do. Yo, Chipotle's good. I worked there for 10 years. Damn. That's how you know Chipotle actually rocks, because I've worked in that industry before. And I'll tell you, I could never eat the food. I would always want to eat somewhere else. You're just too familiar with it. You've had it too much. What is it? I eat Chipotle because you can eat somewhat healthy for fast food. Everything's healthy in moderation. Well, I guess health within losing weight and like actual healthy food is not, they're not the same thing, but I feel like so many people don't know that. Was it, I took a bit of meth, it's healthy because it's moderation? Yeah, that's what I meant too. What is it? Yeah, you can lose weight on 2,000 calories of Twinkies, but you won't be healthy or feel good. Oh yeah, you'll have no energy. Sorry, I just had to finish my food, boys. Mickey D's ice cream cones are also only 200 calories, I learned. Yeah, but the machine's always broken. Have you guys read into the conspiracy behind that? They say it's broken so they don't have to make it. No, it's something like only one company makes all the machines, and they have a contract with McDonald's, and like they're not allowed to have anyone else repair it, and like they repair it, and it's like engineered to fail. It's some crazy conspiracy. How long does it take to vacuum? Well, I have a massive house. I'm just kidding. I just thought that would be an opportunity to flex on everybody. Oh, it's over. The vacuum's over. Tell us you never vacuum your house without saying, oh, I never vacuum my house. Yeah. I don't want to do that. What is it? The shaman dooming was rewarded? Dude, it was. Because I think Blizzard actually was not going to do anything to enhance. Like, I'm fairly certain that's true. But like enhance were so mad that they actually ended up doing changes, which is pretty cool. I'm actually excited about that today because I actually really like enhance. So I want to log on beta and play enhance a little bit. I unsubbed and put no changes to enhance as the reason I saved enhance. Easy. Yeah, it was you, man. Guess who's back with a brand new slurp? Max wide walking on these tank mains first. Eating beta builds like surf and turf. Dorky bear got nerfed. Stay small, you twerps. What are you? What, guys? What are you doing today? Huh? You spitting bars about tanks? What is it? Didn't they insanely nerf tanks at the beginning? Yeah, see, that's what we need to figure out. Because, like, I don't follow this too closely because I don't tank and I haven't in a long time. But I know that they announced this exact kind of thing before Dragonflight, and then like tanks right now play just fine. So did they end up reverting that? Is it one of those things where it's like a number squish? Like basically tanks just are scaling so crazy that like at the beginning of every expansion they need to nerf them again so it can be reasonable, right? But then I read like I like browsed through all of the changes on Wowhead. Not all of them. Like actually I think it was like literally just Blood Decay and I'm like, "Yo, that sounds really bad." Like that sounds like it's going to be significantly yeah. The thing I hate the most about these tank nerfs is that it's an AUG buff. Huh? How so? Oh, like the armor that AUGs give tanks is like more valuable, I guess. In a way, it might, or just I guess the defensive throughput in general. Yeah. Why still small? Oh, good point. I should get big. Ah. I'll get big. Let me turn my lights on though. Dude, let's get as big as possible. Let's go full screen big. Oh, look at the Reptar stretch, by the way. Check that out. Reptar, big stretch, buddy. What a crazy little stretch. Hey. Yeah. Okay. We're going to get insanely big. We're going to oh, okay, we're blasting off. Fuck it. Let's go. We're getting as big as possible. You guys are all beneath me. Okay. So, we're fucking taking off right now. Not gonna lie, I think it'd be cool if they took a note from Sod and added Lock, Shaman, and Rogue tanks to retail. Yeah, I mean, fuck it. By the way, did you guys know that Season of Discovery season, or like the 4th phase of that started last Thursday? I swear, like, people have to remind me that that even happened. It's so dead. Fucking crazy. I can't believe how hard it fell off. Yeah, we were theorizing it when recording the Potty C last night, which, by the way, we recorded the Potty C last night because of some availability stuff. And then this happened, so we might have to record a Potty emergency bonus segment. Maybe we'll just, like, cut out the most boring 20 minutes of that podcast and then just add on whatever we do here. Maybe we could do that. What is it? Frank can edit them together. He loves editing. Dude, he does love editing. He fucking... Dude, that's his favorite thing. Like, when we give him, like, a full VOD where no cuts or anything are needed, he actually is so sad because he fucking needs to just, like, clip stuff and cut it and... Like, you guys think that he's actually mad when he does stuff, but whenever he gets to actually cook as an editor, he feels alive, bro. Did you guys know that Frank was somehow in the U.S. and had dinner with Dratnos recently, and I didn't even know he was in this country? That goes fucking hard, right? Found that out last night. That was hype. That goes fucking crazy. Thought he was locked in your basement? No, that's just during the race. Yeah. Max, sign me to a contract with Liquid so I quit my job. Thanks, brother. I'll settle for 75k a year. I offer absolutely nothing in return. Yeah, that sounds good. Was it Ivan's wedding? BlizzCon legend? Oh, dude. I told this... Did you know I told the stream about Ivan recently? Like, I think it was like my last stream. Or maybe the stream before that. Bro, that guy's my goat. Yeah, dude, I looked that guy right into his eyes as he was using the restroom. It was fucking weird. I pulled up to a BlizzCon house. I'm knocking on the door. I turn to the right. There's a fucking window that shows into the bathroom. And if you were to be like a guy going pee, you would be looking out the window, standing straight up. And I just like knocked on the door, turned to the right, and I don't know why I'm looking at him, but he's staring at me right into the eyes as he's peeing. It was fucking crazy. We locked eyes. Dude, he was mid-marriage service as Trump was shot at. Shit went hard. Holy fuck, yeah. That's crazy. Dude, I was like 2 hours late on that as well. What is it? Rip Windwalker Monk. Did not feel like they deserved a nerf, but then again, I might be suffering from a brain cell deficiency. What a fucking crazy first message. That is an insane first message. Fuck yeah. Yeah, man. Well, might just have whatever. All good. Nice little some brain damage. All good. What is it? The people on Love Island still don't know he got shot at? Wait, is that the premise of Love Island? Is Love Island a... like, you are shut off from the world thing? Max, do you feel like it's strange to do changes like this after raid testing has concluded for beta? Maybe. The tank stuff, you mean? I mean, we're in completely uncharted territory. The game is, like, completely bonkers as far as tuning is concerned. Like, it's just, like, complete nonsense. And usually near the end of testing, the game, like, makes sense. And currently that's not true, so... I will say, though, guys, if you ever need... and I hate that I'm telling you this, but it needs to be said. I was like, I gotta shut my door. The vacuum's fucking ramping the fuck up. Alright, my door is actually closed. It's just really loud. All good. Already closed. If you guys need a reason to complain, just know that Blizzard 2 weeks ago basically gave their last Ellie Shaman and Resto Shaman changes. And then they said in a post, hey, Enhance, sorry, but we might tune your numbers a little bit, but we'll be getting to you guys in the first patch of the expansion. And then Enhanced Shamans lost their fucking minds for 2 weeks, and it was like pretty clear that they weren't going to work on Enhance. If they were, they would have done it last week, right? That would have fit the timeline. But clearly they heard Enhance being absolutely down in the dumps, so they actually made some Enhance changes. And I like briefly looked at them, and they sound insane. So I actually might log on to beta today, because that sounds really, really fun. And then they made those tank changes, which you guys know I feel pretty strongly about. Looks like they may have updated their take here. Did they? The tank changes got me real excited as a healer. There's no way that's true, bro. There's no way that's true. I don't even think healers have fun spamming tanks. I think healers have fun healing damage. I think healers have fun healing group damage, which includes the tank, but, like, I don't think healers enjoy, like, BC Wrath era, like, Holy Light spamming the tank the whole fight. I don't think that's fun at all. But also, we can hear from an actual healer on that point. I'm not gonna... So, you'll never, You'll never see me heal, so, or understand how healing works. What is it? I don't think this turns healers into spamming tanks. Just means they don't completely ignore that unit frame, which is good. Yeah, okay, so here's the problem. So a lot of tanks... So tanking has gone through a lot of iterations of this. So Mists of Pandaria was the most extreme. So Mists of Pandaria is the opposite of what this post is saying. Mists of Pandaria was... If you played your class properly, which was not easy, but if you made the correct decisions, you would basically be self-sustainable on every single tank, and it was super rewarding, it was super fun, and tanking was the most fun it ever was because of that, and people gravitated towards tanking, and a lot of good players tanked because it was a really fun thing to do. And then they turned that into Resolve, which they tried to basically remove the damage component of that and turn it into Resolve, but they significantly made it worse. So, like, that wasn't the thing. Then, like, I feel like we've been in a pretty similar feel of tanks since, like, Legion. Like, I haven't tanked in... I was always a DPS in my guild that tanked because we just had bad tanks or someone had to tank, right? But I tanked, like, a bunch of World First races, tanked... World top 10 even before that until Legion or until BFA World top 10 when it wasn't race to World First. And then I haven't done a ton of high keys. I've only done like 2 seasons of high keys ever, and then I've done MDI. So I've tanked at the highest level for a very, very long time, just not recently, but I obviously still talk with a lot of people. I still have people that I have tanked with still tank in this scenario. And I've talked to them about it. And, like, I think tanking has roughly felt the same as far as how self-sufficient you are and how... kind of ignoring Blood Decay. Like, Blood Decay is kind of its own thing that's gone up and down. But, like, most tanks have kind of felt the same, honestly, for the last, like, 8 to 9 years. Like, it's been roughly... There hasn't been a time where it's been, like, massive, where you were back in Cataclysm and you just got healed as a tank and nothing you did mattered. And there hasn't been a lot of times where literally everyone is fully self-sufficient and they require 0 healing at all. I think maybe even now might be the closest to that. What is it? Shadowlands Season 1? Okay, yeah. Did they nerf tanks going into that season specifically? Because I know they did it at the beginning of Dragonflight, right? It was the beginning of Dragonflight they nerfed tanks and then they had to buff all the tanks after or during Season 1 as well. That was during the kiting meta. Dude, yeah, that's the worst thing ever. So, like, tanks being self-sufficient does cause that problem. So kiting is always not fun. Like, kiting just means you're not able to, like, play your class. So you guys have actually experienced kiting. Even if you've never tanked, you know what kiting feels like. If you're a melee and you've played when Spiteful was the worst it ever was, that's what kiting feels like as a tank. Like, you just have to stop playing your class for a bit most of the time. If you're a ranged and you had got, like, I guess the closest thing for ranged would be, like, quaking or maybe volcanic, but not really. Then you get the idea of, like, what kiting is like for a tank. So basically, tanks, there's some sweet spot for tanks. I think some tanks want to be fully self-sufficient, like the mop days. I think there's probably a little bit of a compromise that needs to happen there. Like, Blizzard is always going to want tanks to require a little bit of healing from healers, but I think tanks would mostly like to feel in charge of and responsible for their own living or dying, which, again, for the last 8 or 9 years, that has been the case, like, almost all of the time, right? There's been some patches where they were weak and then got buffed, but, like, that's been the case. This is a significant change in the opposite direction. Like, I read this yesterday before they actually posted the changes. They basically just gave their philosophy yesterday, but they delayed the beta build, so we didn't really see exactly what these would look like. So we are going to actually read through this and kind of see this, and then we'll also read through the changes. But I can just tell you that tank players are going to quit tanking in droves if tanking becomes something where you feel like the decisions you're making as far as active mitigation and your personal healing are less impactful and you are reliant on other people to be alive. That is the most unfun experience ever. What it might do is so you might lose a lot of good players tanking, but you might gain some people that otherwise are kind of afraid of it because they feel like there's too much responsibility. Like, the more responsibility you take off tanks, the more accessible it is maybe to worse players. So I don't know as much about the population of tanking changing much over a long period of time, but I think certainly better players will move off of it. Like, as a tank, there's so many things in this game that are not fun to tank, right? Like tanking raid. For Race World First, tanking raid is great, but then it's immediately really boring. Why do you think like the tanking communities, kind of like the Discord communities, they gravitate towards parsing? Does tank parsing like really matter? Like even in a progression scenario, like not really. Like if you just play your class correctly, you're gonna just do pretty good damage and it's gonna be fine, right? But like it's so fucking boring when you have that much gear that you're just trying to find a way to challenge yourself. You want to feel challenged. The scenario where they nerf you to where like those decisions matter less, it's harder to stay alive, but not in something in a way that you can control. It's harder to stay alive because you just rely on other people more. That's going to be increasingly frustrating. And I just don't think people are going to be a huge fan of that. But I don't know. Let's go ahead and just read through this. Let's see. Raid tanking, don't get loot, don't get mechanics, don't get hit hard. Yeah, well, I mean, like, think about other ways, too. So, like, even in Mythic Plus, it's not super challenging until you get to higher keys. But in higher keys, tanking is actually, like, really, really fun. Like, if something isn't challenging enough, you can pull bigger, right? Or you can go to a higher key level. Like, you'll find a way to, like, live at the highest possible difficulty. But if the change to this is, oh, you can still do those keys, but the reality is you just go in and get threat and use all of your cooldowns and then run away, I think that is, like, unsustainable dog shit. Like, I think that will ruin the tank population in this game. That's, like, kind of the one thing that tanks can do to feel challenged outside of literally doing the mythic bosses the first week, which is not available to a lot of people. And I just feel like the tank population is going to be shit. But today, what I want to do is I want to hear from healers, because I do know that they mention healers a few times in here and how healers feel about this. And I'll talk to a few tank players. Max, are you dropping frames or is my internet dog? I don't know. Let me see. I've dropped 0 frames. Your internet's dog shit. Unfortunate. Okay, here we go. With the introduction of the Dragonflight talent system and season-over-season changes, tanks in WoW have become extremely durable relative to non-tank characters. Their active defense can mitigate high percentages of incoming damage and they have strong self-healing. Today, in the hardest content in the game, many tanks can sustain themselves without much assistance from healers. In some cases, we've seen it become optimal to do group content without a healer at all. Ooh, okay. So, personally, I knew that this would be a big reason why they would look at this and see tanking as the issue. We've actually talked about how the defensives in this game have gotten out of hand, but every time we do, we mention how they should specifically not touch tanks, but nerf the defensives for everyone else, right? I would actually say the problem with 4 DPSing is actually how sustainable off-healing and DPS keeping themselves alive. Personally, I mean, I'll let you guys know. I maybe I'm biased in this way. I've tanked for a really long time. I think tanking in a scenario, I don't know if every class should be like 100% self-sufficient. Like literally you cannot die if you play well. Like as much as I enjoyed that in MoP, like I just don't know if you can kind of make the game that way. Because then it's also like who's going to tank, because it's like kind of higher skill level, and then like it's like really not approachable as a role, right? Like the skill cap is too high maybe, and like I don't know, there's probably a lot of tanks who don't want that. Max, read the fortified change first. Nah, I'm gonna read through all of this whenever in whatever order I want to, really. Yeah, I don't know if the healer point has much to do with tanks, but we can ask some healers later. Okay, let's see. World of Warcraft is an MMO, and its multiplayer aspects are a major strength. Group content is extremely rewarding when players performing different roles come together to overcome a challenge. We want to reinforce the importance of the healer role, which, by the way, I actually agree with that. If they think that doing dungeons properly should involve having a healer, I completely agree. Like, I think it's cool when people can, like I view scenarios where you want to remove a healer from your group I've been playing a lot of hockey recently. I'll use a hockey analogy. It's like when you're behind in a hockey game at the end of the game and the score is close, to try to win, what you can do is pull your goalie. You can take your goalie out of your net and you can get an extra skater. Most of the time when you do this, you're going to end up, they're going to score another goal and you lose. But hey, you have a higher chance of scoring a goal, which you need to tie the game and send it to overtime or to win, right? That is how 4 DPSing should be. This key wouldn't be possible otherwise. Maybe we can try 4 DPSing the first pull to make it possible. Maybe we can try this in like a TGP or MDI format. It's like we are doing something significantly more challenging for a potential gain. I think it's cool if that is possible to do, but I think it's lame when it's what everyone does all the time. Like, I completely agree with Blizzard here, where it's like we should make sure that healers are in groups. I just don't think that addressing tanks is the way to do that. I think it's addressing off healing in the game and the massive amount of defensives that are available throughout the game, which we've talked about at length. I'm not going to go over that again. Definitely agree with this. This is not the right way to do it. Super not the right way to do it. Like, dude, playing a tank and playing perfectly and then just not getting healed and dying makes you want to fucking log off forever. And that like doesn't really happen right now, and that's like really, really nice. Okay, enemy damage has increased to challenge tanks, but if it's increased too much, it gets spiky and puts tanks in significant danger if their defenses ever drop. Okay. This can lead to tanks getting killed rapidly, seemingly out of nowhere. We feel this is unsatisfying and would prefer tank damage to generally be evenly distributed, but still threatening over time. I actually can't give too much of input on this because it sounds like this is something that has maybe changed in the last 2 years specifically, which I haven't tanked, so I'll probably get some takes from some other people on this because I don't know if that's how. I know that enemy damage has increased and become more spiky in the entire game, and we've talked about that at length because of how it affects DPS healer players, non-tanks specifically. And that is a huge issue with defensives in this game, but it is never speaking about tanks when we speak about that, ever. But I'm assuming it may feel that way for tanks as well. I don't know. I did like some 29s and 30s, admittedly on a very broken tank, Guardian Druid, in Season 2. But it felt like tanking how it's always been, kind of, when you're playing a strong tank, which I would always play in every patch, whatever the best tank was. So, I'm not sure if that, how true this is, that, like, specifically it's gotten more spiky recently. Also, it depends on who you're talking to as well, right? This is, we've talked about this a lot with High Mythic Plus, but, like, if the opinions you're hearing about tanking is very centered around High Mythic Plus, it's going to be hard for them to get this point across, because I bet they're not really including that a lot in this scenario. Like, I bet they're heavily focusing on raids, and I bet they're focusing on dungeons up to a 10. Because that's what they design rewards for, as we've spoken about before. People doing keys higher than that, infinite scaling, they don't really consider that with design a lot of the times. So I don't know if that's true. Like, is raid tanking extra spiky now, where tanks instantly die? It's certainly from my perspective of just watching their health bars, it doesn't look that way. Not sure. Again, can ask some more later. If tanks are not threatened enough, then the most challenging part of endgame content can become keeping DPS and healers alive, often against high burst damage. Making tank survival a more involving element of group gameplay could give us some freedom to ease up on the threat to other group. Okay. Making tank survival a more involving element of group gameplay could give us some freedom to ease up on the threat of other group members. So, okay. Purely, I've been playing DPS a lot recently. How crazy dungeons feel as far as the threat level that everyone feels at all times. They're basically saying, well, we're doing this because you guys aren't healing tanks. So if we can get you to heal tanks, we'll go back to, like, the last few expansions of things not being as crazy. That just doesn't even make... Like, I feel like tanking is almost a completely separate... Like, I almost view group damage intake and tank damage intake as, like, completely separate. But I guess that does kind of... Man, this is crazy. This really feels like they understand that something needs to change, and the big glaring obvious thing is the total amount of defensives in the game for non-tanks and the potency of them, especially with the new hero talents. And it's like that's the big thing, that's the problem, but they're just trying to go around it in any possible way. except for doing that, and it's leading to potentially bad design in a lot of few areas. Okay. I mean, I feel like regardless of tank stuff, groups are still just getting absolutely annihilated. So, like, what? So, you're... Okay. So, hey, guys, we're going to make this change. We want you to heal tanks again, but we're going to remove, like, 80% of the mechanics that mobs have, because that's how much more they have than normal, right? Like, I don't know if that's necessarily true. To address the above, we're making reductions to tank durability and self-healing, and I'm assuming also significantly reducing the mechanics that mobs have. This will allow us to smooth out the damage tanks and parties take while retaining the challenges of keeping them alive over time. We'll take those changes into account in counter tuning as well. It's pretty close to the expansion, but maybe. Tanks will take more damage overall, but shouldn't die significantly more often. To increase the overall damage tanks take and their reliance on healers, we're primarily increasing the percentage of damage they take after mitigation from steady damage sources like physical attacks. Man, high key players, can you imagine what it's going to be like to walk up to a pack of, like... You know, Blizzard really hates you pulling 10 mobs. Like, I feel like so many changes they're making, they want it to be, like, fucking impossible to pull more than 4 mobs at a time. Because, like, if you're, like, if you're a high key tank, bro, you're just going to walk up to, like, a pack of, you know, like a double pack, and you'll actually just die to melees reading this. Man, the kiting is going to be so real. Dude, this actually just sounds like kiting meta. Like, you're just going to go in, pop all of your cooldowns that it's possible to live so you can enable this double pull. You're going to get all your stops off. You're going to kick. And then you're just going to run away. I wonder if they address kiting because, like, if there's... Oh, okay, they do address kiting down here. Let's see. Tank damage intake should be steady and not too fast. One of our goals for these changes is to smooth out the rate tanks take damage and reduce surprise, spiky deaths. Okay, can you guys help me here? I'll call some tanks later. But in this expansion, Dragonflight specifically, do you feel that there are spiky tank deaths that didn't happen in, like, the last few expansions? Because just from my own personal view of watching tank health bars this expansion and DPS health bars, they seem to have kind of changed similarly where, like, everything is more spiky. But I don't know if it's, like, specific to tanks. Like, we've talked about it with DPS a lot. Like I have, like, for example, I don't know, like, maybe our tanks died, like, 3 times in all of progression. In keys, yes. But, like, in high keys, wasn't that always true, though? Like, the last couple expansions, where if you're, like, pulling a bunch of mobs and you have a lapse in your defensive rotation, like, you could just die to all of those mobs. I feel like it's been that way for years. That will always be true in high keys. You're saying... So you guys are saying in, like, 10s as a tank. In this expansion, Dragonflight specifically, you feel the damage is more spiky. But would the damage be more spiky if they're increasing damage from auto attacks? I don't know. I'm a little confused. It does not happen in 10s, you're just bad. Well, I'm confused. You guys in chat are saying, well, of course it happens in high keys. And then you're saying raid, it doesn't matter. And then you're saying in 10s you don't die. So when... those are the main ways you play the game, right? You have to pick one of those. Or a few of them or something. Auto attack damage is spiky if you sync autos, which instantly kills you. Yeah, but what I'm saying is... That's not different than Shadowlands and BFA. As far as, like, they're referring to, like, they're saying this has been the case recently. This is why we're making this change. I think this has been... If you're going to say tanks have had more spiky deaths, I just don't think that that's happened more in the... It doesn't seem that way. But I will... I'll ask some tankers later. We'll bring some on. Okay, for some classes we're... Okay, let's see. Healers should have time to respond to tank health, and tanks should have time to use self-heals like Word of Glory or Celestial Brew. For some classes, we're increasing their passive defense to compensate for decreases to more active and reaction defensive... Oh, man. I mean, that change in general as a tank just being passively more tanky and having the buttons you press and the decisions you make matter less just sounds like you're turning everyone into like a robot, like just like a mindless drone. Like you press your buttons, they don't matter. I just hate the direction of this. This direction is actually why I stopped tanking. This is really sad to see. I just hate reading this. Tank busters will still create challenging moments that reward tanks and okay. Oh man. Tanks will still have a strong answer to threats or periods of danger, but less sustained self-healing. Tanks should have autonomy over their own survival and will still have cooldowns or emergency self-heals, but the healing of continuous effects like Elun's Favored or Indomitable are reduced. So tanks must have more of a partnership with healers to restore their missing health once it's lost. Yeah. I mean, you're definitely going to need a lot of people to get on and talk about this because this is just a difference of perspective. Like, I mean, I've tanked a lot, and I understand my opinion is definitely, like, on the higher end. It's very biased towards, like, top-level gameplay. I don't ever... If I were to ever die, and it's because I played perfectly, and, like, a healer didn't fucking heal me, I want to throw my computer out of my window. Why am I even tanking? Like, what is my job, even, if that's the case, right? So... I want that to be the case, but again, there has to be a balance with healers, right? It is a team game, right? Like there has to be a balance with healing. I just want to hear how healers feel about it. Let's see. No one wants to heal tanks. As a casual healer, it sucks to have to heal tanks. Well, I mean, healers want to be challenged, right? I mean, I know there's some healers that are like, I want to be invited to groups, but I just want to DPS the whole time. Because I'm sure there are people who have different takes. But I think there's ways to challenge your group. Then this has existed in WoW. There have been Mythic Plus seasons and high keys and not high keys and whatever, where you can challenge your group with group healing that the tank can still feel like their role matters and the buttons they press matter. It's not as passive, it's active. And healing can still be fun. I mean, not to say that, like, tanks needing to be healed... I feel like what everyone thinks of when you hear that is, like, some classic shit where it's, like, you just have, like, 4 of your healers just, like, offsetting Holy Light cast on your tank's health bar or else they die. You know? But also, like, tanks... healing more than healers, but that's just kind of how blood decays are built, you know. I guess vengeance as well now. They would have to, I mean, so it sounds like they might massively change DK and vengeance because, like, those classes are inevitably spikier. Like, if they're talking about making your decisions matter less and having more passive defensiveness built in, that kind of seems like it's taking Blood Decay's entire class design and niche and just making them something else, right? Which is really sad, honestly. I haven't read any of those changes yet, but... let's see. Tank gameplay should not significantly change or require actions like kiting to survive. Okay, I'm really interested to see how they're going to pull that off with everything else they said. We are happy that more players are enjoying playing tanks with their friends and pickup groups. There are a lot of demands on tanks, such as learning Mythic Plus groups, leading groups, and knowing what trash abilities are particularly dangerous. The gameplay of standing toe-to-toe with groups of enemies should continue to be effective. Okay, so at least they acknowledge this, though, because, like, here's the scenario, right? If you guys want to complain, you missed a paragraph, yeah, whatever, we'll go back. It started with healers, so I naturally glazed over that. So, at least in the first season of this expansion... if tanks are kiting, you can directly point to this paragraph and be like, hey, you guys agreed that tanks shouldn't kite, right? Watch this VOD of me doing this dungeon. And then you will say, like, whatever changes you have set out to do are causing the exact problem you said you wanted to avoid, right? So yeah, and this is actually a really good paragraph to have. To be clear, I'm fairly certain reading this, I don't know how you accomplish this without including kiting. At least in higher keys, right? Because again, well, I don't know. They made a post recently saying that they're going to consider making the game for higher keys for, like, the first time, so... Maybe this is part of their decision making now, but like in the past, they never considered it, even from their own words, have never considered high keys. But like, I find it really hard to believe that with these changes, you wouldn't kite in high keys. And if you don't kite, then maybe it's fine. I don't know. I definitely think that's the line. The line to me in dungeons is kiting, I think. I think as long as you are not kiting as a tank, tank is generally going to be the same experience and be pretty fun. But if you are ever given the chance to kite and you take it, I think something is wrong. So let's see. Isn't kiting an easy thing to fix with aggro? Oh my god, can you imagine if you need to kite because you can't stay alive and Blizzard's solution to that is to nerf your threat so you have to go back in and die so your DPS don't die? Woohoo! That's a fucking banger tweet or a banger post. Holy shit, what a fucking solve. You should work at Blizzard, by the way. That'd be a fucking crazy solution. All right, here we go. Your feedback, please. We're excited for... Oh, yeah, healer paragraph, whatever. Healers play a critical role, and keeping tanks alive is part of what they bring to the table. However, healers contribute to the success of groups in many ways, especially in dungeons. Dude, I shouldn't have started... I feel like I started this paragraph at the wrong note. On the wrong note. I started it so dobby. I read this like, healers play a critical role. like I was just like going through the motions. Okay, they sustain the group, dispel, and respond to burst damage. Yeah. All while doing the mechanics. Tank healing should not demand so much that it interferes with the other roles. It may take some iteration to get the balance right on this, where healers feel essential is to tank survival, but with their attention not overly demanded by it. Also, I think there's another thing that's kind of interesting to point out about this and why people may be freaking out more, and you don't really know why. So there's already, at least on NA, there is a massive shortage of tanks. People basically can log on and find a Mythic Plus group. Not really right now in Season 4. Season 4 is turbo dead. But in like a regular season, there's like only a few tanks that play at a high level. And if you're not in one of those tanks groups, you're not doing high keys. That's it. Right? I'm assuming the same shortage exists on EU, but probably less to a lesser extent. So like, clearly there is an issue, not necessarily finding tanks, but finding good tanks. If you want to find a way to make less good players play tank, it is doing exactly this. So... that I think is the main concern, because no one's going to want to do that shit. There's going to be less groups happening. Not to mention there's a lot of other side stuff. Like, yes, they're designing for Mythic Plus for the first time ever, but maybe this is a hot take, but I think High Mythic Plus is also in danger. I think the changes they're making for High Mythic Plus, I actually think are going to make this the like least, and I hope I'm wrong, the like least enjoyable high key season ever. Like, hear me out. These dungeons have more mechanics than ever. They're nerfing tanks, whatever. In the high keys, that'll hurt more than ever. The high keys are going to scale more because of the new boon. There's no affixes, including the really cool new positive ones. There's never going to be like a push week. Every week is a push week, and I think that's a you think you do but you don't kind of thing. Like, I think you're just going to like be doing the same keys for 2 weeks, and then it's just going to get boring, especially with this dungeon set. So just whatever. This could be, I could be totally wrong. I actually really hope I'm wrong. I hope everyone has fun doing whatever they want to do in the game, but I currently am definitely on watch for, I think Mythic Plus players are going to hate what High Mythic Plus looks like in the new expansion. But either way, which is definitely they got a lot what they asked for kind of thing, but whatever. Anyways. Cool. All right, let's read the changes. You feel like these changes are just incentivizing Aug even more? Oh, yeah. Okay. In the War Within, all character stamina has been increased by 60% as part of an overall adjustment to the pace of healing gameplay. This increases the relative value of abilities that heal a percentage of characters' max health. Many of these abilities changes are to counteract the relative change. Okay, so this is going to be... I'm going to read through these, but I'm going to take it all with a grain of salt because I haven't played them recently on beta, and I don't know how that's going to feel before and after. Like, for example... this is possible. Don't like freak out when I put the thing out there. I actually don't know. I'm going to ask people. It's possible Blood DK was unbelievably unkillable, and now they're making them somewhat normal. Same thing with all of the rest of these classes. It's also just as possible, I guess, that they were already getting shit on, and now if you're a tank player, like, holy fuck, we're going to be a target dummy now, right? I actually don't know. I'm going to have to ask people, but I'm going to read through this first and maybe give some, like, class design feel type changes, or type opinions, because I've played so much Blood DK in my WoW time, so... Alright, let's see. Death Strike is a powerful ability that allows Blood Death Knights to mitigate a percentage of any form of damage in the last 5 seconds. Yes. And it's the most fun tank by a mile because of that. In a way, Death Strike works like a retroactive shield block. Instead of reducing damage up front, it mitigates the damage you took by it healing you. Yes, and that's very fun. If used in succession, Death Strike can affect a single hit multiple times, which would be comparable to blocking a hit and then going back in time and blocking it again. Oh my god. Are they going... 1 second. Oh my god, they did. Oh, this is so bad. 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 That 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 is so bad. They cannot, this cannot go live. This is going to be fucking dog shit. This is going to, you know what this is? Okay. Hey, it's like a retroactive shield block. No, what it means is when you press Death Strike as a DK, when you play the class enough, you feel how much that's going to heal you because you've kind of accounted, after you've played it for a long time, you've accounted for how much damage you've taken in the last 5 seconds. If you get hit down, how it works right now is if you're getting owned, you can have saved up enough runic power, get hit down to 10%, heal to full, get hit down to 15%, heal to full. What's going to happen now is you're going to get hit down to 10%, heal to full, you're going to get hit down to 10%, heal to 30%, die. And that is going to be the worst feeling of all time. This cannot go live. Like I said, I'm gonna keep the rest of it with a grain of salt, but I had to stop as soon as they read that. They're overthinking this. You cannot make this change. It can't happen. You cannot do this. It would be so bad to play. They would to make this the case, they would have to massively increase your passive damage reduction, probably your absorbs from mastery, probably your parry rate, which is a little bit more RNG, which is kind of what they said, right? They said, hey guys, we want to make you more passive and less spiky, and that will accomplish this. But then, like, what are we fucking doing? You're not even a blood DK at that point. You are... Guys, shut the fuck up about keep reading. I'm gonna talk. I'll link the thing. Here you go. Take all of you keep readers, read this thing. I'll link it 1,000 times. Please get the fuck out of here and go read it on your own or something. I'm gonna do that. I'm just gonna read this however the fuck I want and take as long as I want to talk about everything. Please leave. All right. And now I'm mad. Look at that. 1 second. Let me hit a fucking spin. All right, we're good. We're fucking good. A fucking huge spin right there. Okay. Here we go. That's crazy. Man, like, what is a Blood DK even gonna look like? Like a Blood DK that doesn't take a lot of damage up front and their Blood DK doesn't do shit? Or their Death Strike doesn't do shit? Like, what is even this class? You're gonna make it the most fun class in the game to absolute trash. Okay, a new aura, Coagulating Blood, shows the amount of recently taken damage that will be used to calculate the value of your next Death Strike. The aura description lists the value. Yeah. By the way, I bet weak auras won't be awesome for this as well, right? Dude, I'm actually so mad right now. I don't even tank and I'm so mad. Okay, Blood Shield. I'm just like, I sound like a fucking Asmongold viewer. All right, let's see. Blood Shield's cap is now 50% of the Death Knight's max health was 100, and the cap no longer is temporarily increased by vampiric blood. This should not affect how much Blood Shield Death Knights are able to generate while actually tanking, but will reduce how large of a barrier they're able to accumulate while off tanking. Okay. Rune of the Fallen Crusader. Okay, they just nerfed a bunch of percentage-based stuff. Nerfed your runic power generation. Nerfed Enfeeble. Nerfed Null Magic. Buffed Bone Shield, so you have, like, passively more armor. Nerfed Leeching Strike. Nerf parry chance from so nerf the power of your cooldowns. Nerf runic power generation when you have Dancing Rune Weapon up. Blood Drinker reduces the damage. That's tough. I mean, this is tough. That's tough. Vengeance Demon Hunter. Kind of a mixture between like a... They used Prot Warrior as an example, and they used Blood Decay as an example, as like the two outer extremes of healing damage retroactively and proactively reducing damage. Vengeance Demon Hunter is kind of a mix of those. Closer to a Blood Decay, but a mix. Like, picture Demon Spikes as like a shitty shield block, and picture Souls as like shitty Blood Decay, even though it's really good and close to Blood Decay. Vengeance Demon Hunter. Like Death Strike for Death Knights, Soul Fragments give Demon Hunters strong recovery against any type of damage, as well as strong self-healing. Because Demon Hunters consume Soul Fragments steadily, we're not changing the rules for how often they can affect a damage event. Well, I mean, thank God, right? That would be even as miserably stupid as the Blood Decay change, yeah. We're not changing the rules for this any damage event. We're increasing Vengeance's overall damage taken by weakening the damage reduction of talents like Void Reaver and Illuminated Sigils, while keeping the core power abilities like Soul Fragments and Demon Spikes. So continue to be one of the stronger tank classes, self-healing and surviving magic damage. Yeah, I mean, sounds like significantly stronger than Blood Decay. So Vengeance Demon Hunters are new Blood Decays, because Blood Decays had their healing absolutely destroyed, and this class didn't, I think. Unless maybe I'm reading this wrong. Live by the Glaive restores less thick skin. They reduce their health a little bit. Minor nerf. Minor nerf. Minor nerf. Minor nerf. Just passive reduction a little bit. I don't know if Blizzard knows what this means. This is like the most monumental, crazy... Like, you're going to have to, like, relearn how to play Blood Decay, which, I mean, relearning how to play stuff isn't necessarily bad, but, like... I mean, this is, like, your entire feel for the class that you've developed over X amount of years is just gone. Crazy change. Okay. Holy shit, man. With high armor and iron for uptime, Druids should be one of the best tanks at surviving physical damage. We're slightly increasing the damage they take from all types of damage and balancing the power of their self-healing. We're also reducing the durations of some of their cooldowns to make timing of their use more important. I mean, Guardian Druids are kind of exactly the replica of what they want from a tank, right? It's like easy as fuck uptime of active mitigation, but also not nearly as potent as something like Shield Block. They kind of passively take damage. They have a decent amount of tank cooldowns. And they have self-healing, but it's like... It's the kind of self-healing they want. They don't want the passive self-healing all the time. They want the self-healing where you press a button in a pinch and you get healed. So Guardian Druid, like, now that I'm thinking about it and after what I'm reading, Guardian Druid probably shouldn't be changed much because it just sounds like it's what they already want. It's designed to be exactly what they want. So, let's see. Frenzied Regen heals you for 20% was 32. That is a large nerf to that button. Okay. Iron Fur increases armor by 112 was 120. Renewal heals for 20% of max health was 30. Reinvigoration reduces the cooldown by 20% instead of 40. Earth Warden reduces damage taken by 25. Give them the talent point back on that. Earth Warden reduces damage taken by 25 was 30. Survival the Fittest reduced cooldowns a little bit less. Tooth and Claw. Ooh, there a lot across the board here. The renewal changes for all Druid specs, by the way. Smile. Yeah, smile. I'm happy. After the Wildfire triggers after spending 300 rage was 200. Now that's good. This is a good change. Strong group healing from classes that are not healers is actually the main issue that you said earlier with healers, not the tank thing at all. It's the ability to have... yeah, I don't know. Let's see. The stamina increase cancels out the percentage heal nerfs. Also, I want to say as well, and I said this at the very beginning, a lot of these read bad. But I haven't played tanks recently, so maybe this is fine. All I'm saying is, like, it would sound really fucking stupid if I'm sitting here saying, like, this is bad, 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 bad. But then the expansion comes out and tanks aren't kiting. They feel self-sufficient, but not just overly self-sufficient. And everything plays out really well, right? I mean, I guess there's not even really a reason to say that because you're always just going to, like, see how it plays out. But we will keep reading. And also, again, I am probably going to call some Tankermen. Brewmaster Monk. Now, Brewmaster is really interesting because Brewmaster has been the, like, consistent damage intake. I mean, they're literally a stagger class, but they have a massive absorb, and they have always taken more efficient heals than other tanks because they're, like, always able to receive healing. Let's see how they change that. Healers have more time to heal them. Our goal for monks is to take a little bit more damage overall than other tanks to offset this effect. We feel their overall magic damage mitigation is a little low compared to other tanks and are improving it somewhat by buffing Stagger and its value against magic. To increase the physical damage taken overall, we're primarily reducing the dodge granted by Elusive Brawler and some of their other talents. Celestial Brew is not massive on beta. Okay. You also get a second charge of it with your hero talent, though, right? Brewmaster's balance increases Monk's armor by that. So passively increasing their armor by a lot more. Elusive Brawler, chance to dodge reduced by a lot. Okay. Celestial Fortune heals you for 70% was 80. Amount of damage staggered increased by 8%. Percentage of magic damage increased to 58 was 45. That's actually pretty real. Dance of the Wind, chance to dodge reduced. Yu'lon's Grace equal to 1%. Healing Winds restores 10%. Staggering Strikes healing reduced by 28%. Spirit of the Ox, chance to summon a healing sphere reduced by 40%. Elixir of Demonstration reduced by this. Celestial Brew healing reduced by 10%. Pretense of Instability grants 10% dodge was 15. That's hype. Cool. Prop Paladin. Paladins have a... Yeah, Prop Paladins are also a really well-designed tank for what Blizzard says they want tanks to be like. I think it's permanent uptime on Shield of the Righteous. I haven't played Paladin recently, but it seems like really high, but it's also not that insane. Oh, Paladins do... Are Paladins still... Like, you have to stand in your Consecrate for defensiveness? And I know their Word of Glory has been... Okay, let's see what they did. That's bad. Standing in your Consecrate is super, super, super dog shit. They can be danger. They can be in danger if they lose the defensive power of standing in Consecrate, or if the armor bonus from Shield of the Righteous drops. So we're not reducing any of their passive physical damage. But you can be in those all the time, though. Like Druids, Paladins have high uptime on their defensive cooldowns. So we're pulling back some of their durations to make timing their use more important. We would like Paladins to have slightly more self-healing. So we are increasing the power of Word of Glory. Okay. Shield of the Righteous damage reduction nerf. The damage reduction effect while standing in your Consecrate. That'd be fine. I think the damage reduction effect from standing in your Consecrate should be reduced by 100%. Should be completely removed. So that's on the way there. Sanctified Plates armor no longer applies to the bonus armor from Shield. Improved Holy Shield reduces the chance to block spells. The Dusk buff from Dusk and Dawn reduces your damage taken by 4 was 5. Wog healing increased by 10. Sentinel duration reduced to 16 was 20. Oh, that's pretty big. And then Eye of Tyr to 6 was 9. And Righteous Protector Holy Power abilities reduces cooldowns by 1.5 was 2. Okay. And Prot Warrior. What are they going to change with Prot Warrior? I guess maybe they would make shield block less unbelievably OP for White Swings. And then they would make them... Or reduce the uptime on it. Well, no, reducing the uptime, it goes against what they're saying. Pain and Gain now heals for 2% of your max health was 3.5%. Impending Victory heals you for 20% was 30. Defensive Stance reduces damage taken by 16% was 20. Fight Through the Flames causes defensive stance to reduce magic damage taken by 6 was 5. Into the Fray, Haste, Punish, Enduring. Wait. Have some strong heals to scale max health. So we're reducing the power of them to compensate for the 60%. Okay, whatever. Wait, in this week's beta update, we'll be reducing the damage modifier of Fortified from 30 to 20. Our goal is to reduce overall damage to the group to offset the fact that tanks will likely need a bit more external healing. Your feedback is greatly appreciated. God, just makes me want to throw up reading this. Your feedback is greatly appreciated, and we will be keeping a close eye on dungeon raid testing for further adjust individual abilities needed. Dude, this is such an L day for tanks. This is such a down doomer day. By the way, nerf. Oh, we were talking about this on the Potty C last night, but kind of separate, where it's like nerfing fortified is crazy, kinda, because like people really dislike tyrannical more, even though you're gonna have both. But like it's like the bad parts of what makes. I mean, this is actually kind of just a good thing, right? Because I think this will affect high keys more than anything else. And mobs are definitely fucking shitting on you right now, so that being changed is good because it's not an either or thing, one week to the other. Imagine people don't want to play tank because they find it boring. I wonder what people will think after this nerf. I mean, yeah, for sure. I explained a lot of that earlier. I want to see if we can get some boys together today. Let's see if we can get some boys. Let me see if we can actually just... get some boys. Maybe throw a healer in. Dorky is in a key group, it appears. That's terminal. Dorky said can after. Okay, well, while they're doing that, let's look at the actual beta post. Let's see. We're within beta development notes. You need to give Dorky an hour to test some of the tanks. That is true. Max, remember when you said this week's beta build is just going to be slight tuning changes? Yeah, I did. I mean, usually this close to the expansion, I mean, it is mostly tuning changes for whatever is worth. Like, if you read what's being done to most classes, it is just this, right? But yeah, the tank change, kind of unprecedented, and it's really surprising, and in a good way, surprising that they actually worked on Enhance. I think it was very obvious they were not going to do this, and I think the community just complained enough where they did. So W complaining. Remember to complain if you don't get what you want. But yeah, I mean, they also need to work on tuning because tuning in this game is completely fucked at the moment. Like, it is super, super dog shit. So, have to work that out. All right, I'm launching down, though. I'm growing, and you guys are going beneath me. Stay small, by the way, chat. Stay baby. All right. Let's go. Become beneath me. I don't think he's seen those nerfs. Max spins incoming. I already spun today. I already spun. I'm not bricked, dude. I'm only bricked when absolutely necessary. Extremely efficient bricking. Oh, so I guess DPS players got some nerfs as well defensively, which is good. All players, all non-tanks in the game need their stuff nerfed. Defensives. Nerfed, removed, pruned, all that stuff. Okay, 4 hours ago. Couple changes. Hero talent changes. Rider of the Apocalypse buff. Seems like across the board. Except Feast of Souls nerf. They made Reaper's Mark a 45 instead of a 60. That's kind of significant. Okay. Blood, we already talked about this. I think there might be some extra stuff. Okay, and then like tuning changes for Unholy and Frost. Nerf to Super Strain. Nerf to Bursting Sores. And nerf to Ebon Fever. Okay, these are the kind of changes you expect to see. The game is currently a huge Mickey Mouse game. Like none of the tuning makes sense, so there needs to be massive tuning to make the game make sense from now until launch and through Heroic Week even probably. Alrighty. Alright, here's what Demon Hunters need. Demon Hunters are super down bad right now. And part of it is because of their hero talents. Let's see what they changed with that. Effectiveness reduced. Demon Surge no longer increases armor max health, and it now causes this to generate 15 additional fury. Alright, it's fixed. Demon Hunters are fixed now. That is good. We already talked about the Vengeance changes. One funny part is if there's a class that doesn't need their defensives nerfed, it's Moonkin. And Moonkin has had one of their defensives nerfed, which is really funny. So stay small, little moon men. Hero talents for Druid. Keeper of the Grove changes. Wildstalker changes. You know what it is. A lot of hero talents need adjusting, so you'll probably see this every week. We talked about Guardian already. Looks like Resto Druid just... These are significant buffs, right? Swift Mend by 20%, Life Bloom by 20 and 30, and Cenarian Ward by 10, or by 20. That seems definitely not... small. Seems pretty good. I mean, because it's just all their single target stuff, right? Most healers got significant buffs this build. Okay. Evoker combination, these abilities between Aug and Devastation have been buffed, as well as some healing components as well. Flame Shaper, Chrono Warden, Scale Commander changes. Augmentation. Black Attunement increases the max health of you and 4 nearby allies by 2% was 4. Let's fucking go. Aug defensive nerfs. Let's get big. Let's fucking go. Let's go. Fuck Aug. Fuck Aug. Let's fucking go. We like that. None of that. Aug defensiveness should be nerfed into the core of the earth. Aspect's favor increases it by 1%. Yes. Very good. Someone in chat, an Aug player in chat says, if you hate Aug, you're just bad at your own class, Lamau clowns. Look at that. Look at him. Laugh at that guy, chat. He tried to come in here and tried to gaslight everybody. Get him. Get him, chat. All right. Devastation buffed as well, so Devastation across the board. Looks like Devastation's getting right across the board like a 10%. Preservation, Spirit Bloom by 20. Reversion will now extend its duration by 30% when it's refreshed. Emerald Blossom and Echo Cast will no longer consume an Essence Burst when released from stasis. Lifebind will now trigger healing from heals that are considered procs. Field of Dream procs will no longer incorrectly benefit from Titan's Gift. Okay, I know almost nothing about healing, but I did play Preservation like one time this expansion, and I will just say, and I speak for all healers when I say this, obviously, because I come from a place of deep knowledge here, that the Echo build of Preservation is significantly more fun than the other ones, especially anything Spirit Bloom related, and the Echo build should always be the best. Oh, good. Okay, continuing on. Okay. Hunter hero talents. Sentinel. Symphonic Arsenal now has a 5 target cap. Wow. Sentinel now has a 2-second period. It was 1. Wow. Sentinel damage by 100%. And Overwatch now has, that's a game, now has a 15-second eternal cooldown. Very, very good. Oh, let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. Group defensives nerfed. Mass barrier now has a cooldown of 3 minutes. Was 2. Absolutely good change. That button, extremely strong. We need defensives in the game nerfed. That is in the direction of being good. Mass barrier is definitely way too good to be a 2-minute cooldown. Absolutely good change. Let's go. W. All right. Hero talents for Arcane. I'm assuming these are going to be heavily nerfed. Okay, very good. And then Arcane nerfed even more. Beautiful. Okay, Monk. Yu'lon's Grace grants an absorb. I don't even know what that means. Healing Winds restores 10% health with 15. Hero talents. Celestial Conduit damage reduced. Okay. It is quite big. Master of Harmony. That's not a spec I play. I don't care. But I will say, Con of the Celestials is the only thing hard carrying Monk's hero talents right now. Shadowpan stinks. And I don't know if Master of Harmony stinks. But Shadowpan Omega stinks. Okay, Brewmaster, we already talked about these. Mistweaver, Ancient Teachings now transfers 170% of damage to healing. Okay, W Fistweaving. Tear of Mourning now causes 12% of this to transfer to allies with 20 and increases. Okay, W Mistweaver nerf. Jade Bond now increases the mastery healing from Chi-Ji, but 60 was 40. Okay, Jade Bond W. Yu'lon's Grace now absorbs 1%. May stack up to 10 was 15. Vivify by 30. Okay, single target healing across all healers was increased by a lot. That is definitely a good sign. Gust of Mist healing increased by 10%. Beautiful. Windwalker. I see the word reduced a lot. I'm assuming they think that Windwalkers are doing slightly too much damage. I think most classes are going to see... To me, reading a bunch of reductions or increases means absolutely nothing until I see every class together, because the game just has complete nonsense Mickey Mouse tuning right now. So this means nothing to me. Let's see if they changed anything else here significantly. Yu'lon's Grace now absorbs 0.6% health. Was 1. Okay, and then Detox now costs 10 energy, was 20. What is is that your Dispel? Is that your Poison or Disease Dispel or whatever the fuck it is? Oh, that's a great change. Why does it even cost energy at all? Didn't they have some post a long time ago where it was like, we want to reward players for using utility type stuff, so they like added some kind of benefits to certain spells? I forget. It was like it was a hybrid class, and it was something like Detox, and it like gave them some kind of damage benefit when they pressed it. I mean, it's kind of similar to like all of the nodes on trees where like if you interrupt, it gives you some kind of benefit, like that kind of idea. I wish they just did that more with other stuff. You should definitely encourage and reward players for poison dispelling someone as a DPS class, right? Like, you shouldn't want to do that. You should be rewarded for it, or encouraged as well. Okay, Paladin. We already talked about a lot of these changes. Ret Wog healing increased too, which is super piss on beta, so that's good. Priest flash heal by a lot, powered shield by a lot, powered life by a lot. Hero talent changes for Disc. Nerfed. I guess. Maybe not overall, I'm not sure, but 2 reduces. Disc, all healing is no longer reduced by 3%. Powered Radiance increased by 10. Penance healing increased by 20. Okay. So overall Disc buff and some other changes. Cool. Rogue Recuperator now triggers every 3 seconds, was 2. Shaman Healing Surge healing increased by 20%. Farce here. Unleash Life now calls it an Ancestor. What are people... I heard people were calling... Are people calling them grandpas? Is that what shamans are calling them? That's pretty fucking funny if that's true. Okay, so you get grandpa for 12 seconds now, which is pretty hype. Yeah, rogues, by the way, rogues are so down bad. You know what's kind of funny about that too? Clearly throughout beta, the like retouching of your talent trees has gone down a list of classes that needed the most. And they did get through like all of them, and the classes that are the most mad are actually the classes who were the most happy the last time any content was released. Like Demon Hunter and Rogues, not only were they the class with the new shiny talent trees at the beginning of Season 3, but they were also like the best classes in the game by a lot, at least in Raid. And then they like got nerfed, and then even though in the most recent content they had the brand new shiny shit, they're now the most outdated trees and the people most upset with their class design, which I just think that's so funny. Not Mythic Plus, though, for Rogue. I clearly said for Raid. I don't give a fuck about Mickey Mouse Dungeons, bro. All right, here we go. Enhancement. Now, Enhance. You guys finally got a cook. You guys didn't think you were going to get a cook. Let's go. Primordial Wave is now a 30-second cooldown, was 45. So that's good for a few reasons, but that's like legit OP. Like the amount of haste you get from this, how hard those lightning bolts hit. This is like, I mean, this is like Mythic plus God territory type design. So, dude, I'm gonna make an enhance on beta today. I think that sounds really fun. Doom Winds is now a 60-second cooldown, was 90. Okay, that'll line up a little bit better for like the physical build, which I was playing a little bit with Tempest, like the Stormbringer hero talent. So I want to try that. Casting Flame Shock, Frost Shock, and Sundering will now initiate combat with melee auto attacks. What? Oh, so I'm assuming, like, if you walked up to a dummy and just pressed Flame Shock, your guy won't start hitting the dummy right away? Is that what that means? Because they're casts? Dude, I'm being completely honest with you. I had no idea that's actually how that works. I don't think that's a massive change, but it definitely, like, makes that feel better for sure. Nice quality of life, yeah. Nice W-correct game design. Molten Assault range now increased by 4 yards. Molten Assault now plays an impact visual on impacted targets. I don't know what Molten Assault means. Do not tell me, and I never want to find out. Crash Lightning range increased by 4 yards. Crash Lightning is now on personal resource display. Earthen Weapon is no longer on personal resource display. Elemental Blast now correctly replaces Lava Burst in the spellbook. Oh, wait, so the entire expansion when you learned Ellie Blast but still had Lava Burst, that was just not even intended? What? Okay. Woo! Alright, that's hype. So that is hype. The following talents are now 1 point. Molten Assault, Improved Maelstrom Weapon, ooh, and Witch Doctor's Ancestry. Yo. Yo. That's so good because Molten Assault, like, you sometimes didn't take it as physical build, but that felt so ass. So, like, you getting the full value of it for just 1 point makes that definitely... It's just +1 talent point for elemental build, and it's, like, easy free quality of life for physical, most likely. What is it? You just said you don't know what Molten Assault does, and now I'm mad? Yeah, but you guys typed it in chat, and I read my chat because I'm a benevolent streamer. And then you told me even though I didn't want you to. So I know it now. And now I'm mad because I didn't want to know, and now I do. I told you I didn't want to know. Okay. Let's see. Restoration. Riptide initial heal increased by 20. Unleash life increased by 20. Healing wave increased by 20. Ascendance now duplicates 70... Dude, get your cooldown nerfed. Ancestral guidance now transfers 10% of all healing into healing, was 25. Oh. Was AG, like, turbo broken? Because that is a insane nerf. I mean, they nerfed it more than 50%. Okay, Undulation can now be tracked through this. Cool. Warlock, healer here, whatever. Fuck Warlocks. Fuck them. Fuck them all. Fuck them. Fuck them. Fuck them. Fuck them. Fuck them. Warrior, Pain and Gain now heals for 2% of your max health. What do you mean question mark, bro? You guys are fine. Just, like, summon demons and cast spells and stuff. You'll be all right. Dude, imagine just being a wizard. Imagine playing WoW and being a wizard. And not a Chad melee. All right, warrior, pain and gain now heals for this. Prot changes we already read. Oh, PvP! Rake's damage no longer reduced by 23% in PvP combat. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, they made a couple of PvP changes. That's insane. And then they made some raid rewards. What is this? Treacherous transmitter cooldown increased to 1.5 minutes was 1. Primary stat buff increased accordingly. It said this last week, but I don't think it worked. So this is like them making it work, I think. Meanwhile, druids sitting with outdated talent trees. Yeah, dude, druids have to be so pissed because right as soon as beta went out, they were like, all right, druids, you guys thought we forgot about you? Nah, we fucking got you, druids. Hold up, druids. We fucking got you. Here are these brand spanking new class tree. And then they just released this fucking stinker of a class tree and changed almost nothing to the problems it created. Meanwhile, every other class they worked on in beta got like months of changes. They they didn't just make one post about every other class. They're like, here's a bunch of changes. Oh, what do you not like about those changes? Okay, we'll change it all again. Oh, sorry, is there a small concern? 5 paragraphs of notes. And then druids just got this stinker ass class tree and then they just left it there. That's fucking insane. New Wowhead post. A few Blood Death Knight data mined nerfs reverted. Oh, hold the fuck up. Fucking. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. What'd they do? I fucking hit 2 of those things. Wait, did they not even... Did I just spin for no reason? What did they do? Oh, this is one of those Wowhead posts where you can't tell anything. Dude, I spun for no fucking reason. Is this Wowhead bait? In a hotfix pushed to beta servers about 2 hours ago, they reverted some of the data mine nerfs. These nerfs weren't documented in the recent dev notes, meaning they were likely unintended. Oh, so this is... Wowhead said fake news 2 hours ago. And now they're reverting their own fake news that Blizzard never posted themselves. That is legendary Wowhead shit. I actually just spun for no reason. I got so excited. I thought they reverted the Blood DK thing. All right, what the fuck is Dorky doing? All right. Okay, in Dorky's defense, Dorky is actually testing the things that were just nerfed rather than just making it all up. So he is doing objectively the right thing, but I want to do an emergency potty right now, and he's holding me back from that, and I don't like that one bit. Watch Equinox. He's playing Blood DK. No. Dorky's my friend. I'll watch him over everyone forever. Even over Dratnos? Well, Dratnos is my friend too. But you don't cheer for him in TGP? Dorky? I wasn't cheering for them in TGP because, like, at the end of the day, when they were trying to time that last key to qualify, I knew for a fact, and I'm right about this, that they would be just as happy not qualifying and being done and not having to do practice for another week than they would be qualifying. So they either won or they won by being done. So I didn't care because they didn't care. If they really wanted to qualify for the finals and they like that meant a lot to them, I would have been like fucking sweating. I would have been rooting for them so hard. But if they don't care, why the fuck would I care? Watch Asian Bunny X. She has it. No, dude, I finally, by the way, got my like recommended channels or whatever to not be like hot tub streams since like the Asian Bunny X shit. Okay, why is Hassan on my recommended channels? I've never watched him one time. Does Twitch just sometimes put like channels with a lot of viewers in here just in case you're like browsing, I guess? Never watched Swifty either, or at least not in a long time. Like Kai Cenat. I sometimes watch Kai Cenat. Sometimes he's doing some crazy ass shit. It's election season. His numbers are up. Yeah, makes sense. What is it? Dorky's playing with an Aug? Yeah, what a fucking bitch. What a bitch. Oh my god. 20 months of the most interactive streamer of all time. Bro, ain't that the truth? Dude, I got flamed on Twitter today for no reason, by the way. I had very casual tweets. I barely tweeted today. I tweeted the word L. Right? So we're one letter in so far. And then all I said was, good lord, will I yap today? And then Shroud said, that's every day. No. That's not even true. The word L? It is a word. When you use L or W in the context of like win or loss and you make them capital, it's a word basically. Max, should all just perma gatekeep Augs so we community delete the spec but won't be work because of all the dick for Rio? Bro, are you having a stroke? Or is this just like language gap? Sounds like that's from YouTube. Nope, that was a Twitch comment. L Twitch. Let's read a YouTube comment. Let's see what they say. All right, YouTube comment. Hey Max, big fan. How many raw eggs do you think you could fit in your mouth before any start to break? L YouTube. Awful YouTube comment. I actually don't know though. Probably like 3. Right? I feel like as soon as you start stacking those things, it's gonna... You're saying before they crack. Don't they like eggs crack like pretty easy? Max, y'all ever done smolder on backwards? What is smolder on backwards? No red loms? What? That was a YouTube comment, by the way. YouTube L. YouTube L. I'm back to Twitch. That comment sucked. Dude, fucking true. Why am I hearing cracks in your mic? I don't know. Everything's broken. Hey, buddy. What are you doing here?
Yo-ho. Just waiting for the Dorkster to finish his game.
So what are we doing? Are we going to just yap on stream for a little bit and then just copy-paste that into the podcast we recorded last night? Is that the plan?
I think the more disjointed it is, the better it'll be for Frank to edit it as well.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, how are we gonna capture anyone's camera? Does that matter?
I think if you're streaming, I'll record my side of things as well, and then
Oh, and then Frank
Frank will
can
splice it
get
together.
them
He
can
loves doing
get
that.
them to line up.
Yeah.
Oh, he loves that. That would be a challenge.
If you can, just cover your mouth as well, so you can't see it moving, so that he can't have any reference points to set off of.
That is good. That is good.
This is not funny, guys.
Oh, what's up, buddy?
Hey, man. Hey.
Yeah, Frank, I'll just send you just like my camera and audio, and then you can also rip from his stream and do whatever bets. Does that sound good?
Have you tried tanking since these changes?
I have not. I've been watching Dorky, a couple other tanks doing it.
Okay.
I haven't played it myself though.
Yeah, that was my first thought, was like, I remember reading some changes similar to this. Was it going into Dragonflight? Were they like, they tried to nerf tanks and then they had to buff them again at some point?
That sounds plausible.
Isn't that part of the lore that happened, I think? And then my only thought is, like, I haven't tanked recently, so that's why I really need to talk to you all about it, but I wonder if it's one of those things where tanks can still play the game and it's not all doom and gloom and they're still playable. It's just, it sounds like the thing that I thought was interesting is Blizzard said that they identify that kiting gameplay is dog shit and we do not want this to result in you kiting, and I just don't know how that's possible at a high enough key scaling, at least. Like, you're just going to kite the more you go in this direction, right?
I already felt like the tank busters that kill you that you can't stun and then they cast again was a pretty strong kite incentive. So yeah, I'm definitely pretty worried that kiting is going to be the best answer to this.
Well, the good news is they said that, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. Right.
So you could always go back to it and be like, hey, remember how you guys said that kiting shouldn't be the answer? Well, it's the answer, so something's wrong.
Yeah, this strikes me as one of those blue posts that has like some pretty logical objectives and then is implementing them in a way that I think is probably not going to work. It reminds me a bit of the AoE cap. Like, when they first announced the AoE cap, they had a bunch of good ideas about, you know, some specs having different niches at different target counts and not wanting you to pull 40 mobs all at once and stuff. And then they just hard capped everybody to 5. And I remember at the time being like, okay, a lot of this makes sense, right? But like, the exact way that it's being done is going to grief more than it helps, right? And then like eventually they kind of got it to a healthier place where it's like, okay, 5 was the wrong number, 8's a better number, and like soft caps are better than hard caps, and now it's kind of chill.
Yeah. Did you tank a bit on beta before the changes?
Yeah, I've done like up to 12s on beta before, and it already felt like especially start of expansion week for tanks, which I think is fine. Like, it already felt like I needed to get healed, for instance.
How has it looked so far with Dorky, if you've been watching him?
He's, died a few times, but it's hard to tell whether that's like, skill gap or the changes.
That is good.
Looks like they're nearly done with their key right now as well. He's playing Paladin, which to me is one of the tanks that is in the most danger of, like, if you have to kite and you don't have slows, it's really hard on that spec. But at least you can do a bunch of damage while you're kiting. That's always nice. Like, you can still press Blessed Hammer and Judgment and Avenger Shield and stuff. I feel like Monk is just sleeper broken now. I don't know if that's true, but
when I read that, it felt like monks would gain the most from this.
Yeah, not to mention they're just naturally strong at kiting. But I watched Dorky playing on Monk and he died, so maybe it's bad.
Let's fucking go. I think what Blizzard is telling you with these changes and with the way they've designed dungeons is, you can tell that if Blizzard is like, if they had a stream on in their office and someone pulled 2 dungeon packs at the same time instead of just the customary one, that they all like shriek in horror. They're like, we have to solve this. This cannot happen.
Yeah.
Continue adding things until they stop.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like, it just feels so, like, constrained if you can never do anything except for, like, the exact minimum pull sizing. But I don't know. I get, like, at least there are, you can do that in a more fun or less fun way. Some of the packs are okay. Some are definitely pretty harsh. Where it's like you're fighting one pack, but it feels like you're fighting 4.
I want to go back to the old days. When you walk up to a pack of mobs, you should have to CC at least half of that pack to be able to play it.
Oh, those old days. I thought you were going back. You were thinking like Legion old days of pull the whole dungeon and, you know, rune weapon, belf, 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 belf.
Nah, I'm thinking.
You're thinking classic, El Clasico.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what, Polymorph Moon? Trap Square?
Oh,
Dude,
they
he's
also
playing Lightsmith as well, not Templar. Psychotic.
he's doing the correct tank play, which is supporting the people around you. Aren't the Lightsmith buffs like actually pretty real?
Yeah, it does big number. It does big number right now.
They also nerfed Aug group defensives. That's a hidden W today.
Yeah, the Black Attunement nerfs, although nerfing tanks buffs the importance of Obsidian Scales.
Yeah, but tanks can just live,
Or not
right?
Obsidian Scales, Blistering Scales, yeah.
Yeah, just be alive though.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was their most broken like group defensive, right?
Black Attunement, yeah.
That's the reason I wanted to bring him in raid.
Yeah, it applies to your 5 closest.
Oh yeah, I know.
But if you have 2 of them, it's still, you know.
Yeah, it's very insane. You can put it on the right people. The what is the number now for Black Attunement? With and without Obsidian Scales?
I think it's now down to 2 up to 6. Let me check. Or within town.
Dude, Tettles just typed in my chat and he's a monitored suspicious user. Oh my god. What did he do? What the fuck did he do?
It looks like it's 2 up to 10.
So when you press Obsidian Scales, you give everyone in your party 10% health?
Or maybe that's 6. Hang on. No, the Wowhead calculator is just broken, I think. Or reread.
Dude, all druid specs are in the fucking ground right now.
Okay, it looks like it's 2 up to 4.
2 up to 4 when you press?
Yeah, it looks like it.
That is insignificant as fuck.
That's good.
Then we love
Kill
that.
it.
We love
Yeah.
that.
Delete it.
Alright, well, while we're waiting for Dork, I'm going to try the new enhanced changes. Dude, that sounds so fun. Do you play enhanced at all?
A little bit, yeah.
Dude, those changes sound incredible.
It's mostly the talent points, right?
No, the 30-second prim wave and
Oh yeah.
and 1 minute doom wins.
1 minute doom wins, yeah. The talent points are huge too. That's so nice. Getting 2 extra talent points or however much it is.
Yeah, I think it's 2 or 3 depending on the spec you're playing.
Yeah, it's really big. Like, I felt so bad.
Oh my god, they're gonna wipe.
No. This is just a mini boss.
The only person alive is a fucking support.
No, they have the Prez as well.
Why is everyone always doing City of Threads when I tune in? When I've tuned into Mythic Plus for the past, like, week or so, it's always City of Threads. Because the spiders have big asses. Fucking perfect. It was bugged to not work in the first 3 weeks, so you gotta test it now. Okay. 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 Come on, dorky. Let's get it moving here. Is my shit updated yet? Alright, let's set up enhance. I want to say I already set up enhance. I swear I did a dungeon as enhance. Like one dungeon. Which account? WoW 2, I guess? Doesn't look like it. Must be the other WoW. They already unnerfed some of DK. I don't believe they did. Wait, dude, I swear I made a shaman.
Dude, they wiped.
That is absolutely incredible. Fuck, I didn't make a shaman. I thought I did. Yike. They reverted the undocumented changes? Yeah, but I never looked at the fake news undocumented changes. So them being announced as fake news and then reverted didn't change anything. Fuck, I gotta... Okay. Of course it'll be created here. Why would you even mention that? Shaman. Washer biscuit. Max, they already reverted some DK nerfs. No, they didn't. They did? I thought all they did was Wowhead took back their fake news. Did they actually repost? It doesn't look like they updated the post. So Wowhead typed some fake news a few hours ago. They typed some extra blood decay nerfs that weren't announced, which was just fake. And then they made a post saying, hey guys, just kidding. Haha, those were fake. Nothing got reverted or anything. All right. I have like 0 FPS right now. Why is that? I must have some add-on being weird. God, remove all add-ons. Add-ons are so bad. Oh my god. God, and I'm mad now. Beta is so laggy today. Okay. My weak auras work. I guess I'm just the wrong spec right now. Oh, let's just do that. All good. I do want to kind of play Ellie, but I'm an enhance enjoyer, unfortunately. I mean their class tree is still kind of cooked. I don't even know. I'm just gonna like randomly fill this out. Wait, let's get the stuff that's required at least. Isn't there this? You need this, right? Let me know if I'm missing anything you absolutely need. Where's like the movement stuff? Like Gus. Oh, here we go. Spirit walk. Haven't played Enhance in a while. We can get lightning lasso separate now. I forgot. Okay. Very, very sweet. Cap totem, that.
Oh my god, he's here.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
All right, what's happening?
Well, we're gonna do a short segment, well, as long of a segment as we want on the tank changes, and then we're probably gonna splice that into the potty C we did last night. That's the plan right now.
Yeah, I can record a, intro thing to explain it however it goes, so we don't have to worry too much about that.
And then you can record your cat. Commonly not known by a lot of people, but it's not just a picture. It is a moving thing that has to be recorded.
Frank wants you to make your face bigger on stream, Max. I don't know if you see that.
Make it real big.
Is that fine?
Yeah.
How big? How big we talking here? We want to go fucking.
He says looks good.
We trying to go huge?
Oh yeah, no, he wants you to put it the whole screen, or bigger than the whole screen actually.
Okay.
Just go right in.
You can see dog hair on the ground. Holy shit. Is that dog hair? Oh no, that's a ripped up dog toy. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it here. That should be fine.
All right, legendary.
Okay, I'm gonna pull up the post. So, you two both tank. Actually,
yeah, you too.
Hello, welcome back to the Potty C. We have deleted the most boring part of this podcast, which we recorded on Tuesday.
Wait, which part was it?
Tuesday night. I don't know what
any
part.
boring stuff in there. Maybe it's just a super long potty. I don't know.
It could be a super long putty. Either
Just
something
extended. Fuck it.
either something boring has been removed, or you are getting extra content. Either way, subscribe to our Patreon immediately, and we are going to talk about the tank tuning. So, you two, especially you guys, tank right now. I haven't tanked in years. What was your initial reaction upon reading this today?
Gut
I saw
reaction
some of it.
negative. Gut reaction. A lot of the like baseline changes worry me quite a bit. I actually think that quite a lot of the changes are good, but the general idea of removing tank power, I don't like on like a visceral level. I don't know. So one of the big changes to me that actually seems kind of smart is the blood decay one. Like the big change to blood decay is Death Strike now only heals you from any given hit once. So it looks back at the last 5 seconds, heals you from damage in those 5 seconds. But then if you use it again within the next 5 seconds, it won't double count. So anything that it heals from, it like gets removed from the tracker for the next one, which is a huge nerf and change to how blood decay would work. But to me, that seems like a kind of healthier way for the spec to work. Like if you think about blood decay, they've kind of had a problem making it good but not broken in any given tier.
And
It's
you
like,
think that's what causes that?
I think that this is a good way to change that so that they now have, like, I think it'll be a lot easier to balance this spec. The thing is, I would have loved to see this paired with a % increase on the amount of healing they get from recent damage taken, rather than like general nerfs across the board, right? Like I would like to see power level agnostic this change being put in, rather than like this is part of a nerf package. So that's kind of where I'm at with a lot of these changes. Is I think that, you know, the way they nerfed Prop Pally is they reduced the importance of standing in Consecrate and reduced the importance of your Shield of the Righteous being up, which, if that was power level neutral, I actually think is a good way to move that spec. I just don't like that they are bringing the power down. But I do like a lot of the specific ways where, like, if you had to nerf these specs, I think they've picked really good ways to do it.
Yeah, like I also did like how they changed blood decay. The problem is that alone is not enough. Like I think that alone kind of just ruins blood decay rather than fixes the issue. Like I agree with you, Janos, where you were saying it's a healthier way of balancing blood decay, but they need to make drastic changes to how the class functions outside of Death Strike. And in terms of like what the Blue Post was saying, they said a lot of good things. I just don't really see them going through with their promises. They've said this about like healing in the past, right? Like they actually had an exact post that was super similar to this in the beginning of Dragonflight. Someone linked the post to me and it read almost the same as how this post was reading. But it's just really hard to not doom about this whenever Blizzard usually fails to accommodate for like the changes. And we've seen with the healer changes too, when they talked about addressing healers by increasing stamina and increasing the damage mobs are doing. It just didn't really do anything because they didn't adjust all the encounters that were supposed to do less damage for a smoother and steadier health bar.
Right. Like,
And
yeah,
this
'cause
feels
if you
just
look
like
at
that.
each of the bullet points, right, it's like tanks will take more damage overall, but shouldn't die significantly more often. Sounds good. Tank damage intake should be steady and not too fast. Sounds great. Tanks will still have strong answers to threats or period of danger, but less sustained self-healing. Maybe that bullet point isn't one that I would say sounds good too, but at least, you know, sounds fair maybe. Healer gameplay should not be dominated by tank healing. Sounds great. Tank gameplay should not significantly change or require actions like kiting to survive. Also sounds great. So they have this post with like 5 bullet points that sound great, and then a bunch of patch notes that just seem really hard to make those bullet points. They seem like they mostly pull in the opposite direction from all those bullet points.
But I'm glad those bullet points exist though, because you knowing, besides just releasing the changes, like releasing what goals they want, that allows you to go back to them later and point out that it didn't solve that. Like if they didn't post any of these things, you wouldn't really know what to complain about. But like, just imagine you do feel like you have to kite. Healing does feel like it's dominated by tank healing. Tanks feel like they don't have answers to threats, right? tank damage is still spiky, whatever. You can like basically point right back to this and be like, hey, like you guys did not. You can either help them make new changes, revert, whatever, but like you have things to go off of to actually like give them. So I'm really glad they actually gave all these points, because you are right, Dratus. If you just read all of these outside of the where with this one, the like tanks will still have strong answers but less sustained self-healing. I know a lot of good tank players definitely enjoy the ability to keep themselves alive as a way to challenge themselves. The role is kind of boring and would push away good players, I think, if it didn't have a lot of that. That's kind of the fear. That would be good. Well, I mean, you played it a little bit on beta today, right, Dorky? How did this feel compared to, I'm assuming you've done this recently before these changes. Like, what's the main thing you feel?
Honestly, it was pretty unimpactful. I don't feel like a significant difference in terms of how much more or how much less self-sustained I am or how much more durable I'm supposed to be. It didn't really feel like they were making our health bars any more steady. But in terms of the blood decay stuff, the blood decay stuff does feel odd. Because, like, basically what happens is if you take a big hit, you're able to recover, right, with that death strike. But after that death strike, if you're ever taking, like, small damages at a time, you can't really top yourself off. You kind of, like, are somewhat reliant on a healer to, like, get your HP bar back to a, like, steady amount where you can just get into the flow of death striking. But so far, it hasn't been too noticeable. It hasn't been too impactful.
That's good. Yeah, another change came in. I don't know if it was hotfixed in or if it was the same time as this, but Fortified got a nerf too. Fortified got nerfed to 20% increased damage from 30%, which gut reaction to this is like, oh no, I like Fortified more than Tyrant, but actually like reducing the damage modifier from Fort I think is good, right? Because like
yeah, the damage part is
that's
fine.
huge.
The HP part would have been bad.
This is like nice that the trash is going to be effectively like less lethal but equally durable as before. So I actually think that change is kind of big and good, right? Reduce it, like trash is going to do close to 10% less damage in keys as a result of this change, which maybe offsets the tank defensiveness in a lot of cases nerfs. And if you look at like Brewmaster's maybe, I think Brewmaster's getting buffed out of all this. I don't know. I saw you playing it, Dorky, and you died, but I thought that was maybe like a skill gap issue or something. But like they buffed the stagger damage by 8%, which is a lot. Like there are a lot of stuff in here. The armor,
the magic stagger.
Yeah, magic stagger, huge. Like that, it's hard to overstate just how valuable each % increase of staggered damage is as well. As you approach 100%, they're increasingly valuable in a way that's like hard to wrap your head around just how much value you're getting out of each extra one. So like start of expansion, it's a big buff. By end of expansion, the fact that baseline stagger has been buffed by 8% for Brewmaster is going to make them really, really chonky.
Reynolds, I'd like to correct you for a second there. It's actually a healer issue.
Yeah, the healer should have kept him up.
I don't know why the healer didn't keep me alive, but that is how Ion intends.
I guess, yeah. Now we're moving to a world where if a tank dies, it's the healer's fault. So
it absolutely
you and I are
is,
now blameless. And
exactly. I mean, how could it possibly be the tank's fault?
Okay, yeah. I mean, if we can get everybody on board with this, I can support these changes then. As long as the group finder, as long as if you go into the group finder and your tank dies, we're blaming the healer, then this post is totally worth it.
I still hate that. I haven't tanked in a while, but like the idea that you could play extremely well and a healer didn't heal you and then you died makes me want to like throw my computer out of my window. That I hate that aspect. But like I think maybe what rubbed me the wrong way a lot of this is also just how they phrased it. Like we've spoken a lot about how defenses affect the game, but we're kind of always speaking about specifically non-tanks. Like at the beginning they say, in some cases, we've seen it be optimal to do group content without a healer at all. But that's not a tank thing. That is a...
Yeah, that was so barred.
Yeah, that set me off on the first sentence. With the introduction of Dragonflight talent system and season over season changes, tanks in World of Warcraft have become extremely durable relative to non-tank characters. That's just wrong. It's like non-tank characters have actually gotten the amount of power there and the off-healing and everything that went with that. And like, yeah, like I think... Like, groups having a healer is a good thing, but that's not because healers need to be healing tanks more, right? It's because of the amount of defensives, the amount of off-healing, and just the in general healing imbalance that they've added into the game. But, like, so I think the way they initially phrased it just made all of it seem really weird. But you guys are saying, like, oh, well, tanks still feel fine. You feel like you don't have to kite. I think it's going to take until the expansion to kind of see that. But I wonder how I think a lot of players who play tank at a high level definitely like having that. Like Dratnos, you said you had a visceral reaction to this. Like tanks want to feel like the decisions they're making have more weight, more impact. Like if you do this at the entire opposite end of the spectrum, the most extreme version of both of these things, right? The one where Blizzard hates it is where healers literally never look at tanks' health bar and tanks are entirely self-sufficient. The opposite of that is like classic WoW. Tanks, no matter what buttons you press, that doesn't matter for your health bar. You are entirely reliant on healers like offsetting their holy light cast to heal you in between auto attack swings and shit like that, right? So like it's about where it lands. I think a lot of top level players, at least, which is where we are surrounded by and are biased by, you don't want that to meet in the middle. You want that to meet as close to self-sustainable as possible, correct? That's what people want from that.
It's tough because, like, you know, in a sense that puts a lot more responsibility on the tank side of things, but I don't know. I feel like if you make tanks less self-sustainable, like, I don't know, pugging in Shadowline Season 1, for instance, when it was as close to the classic side of that as it's been in the last decade, it's not like tanks didn't get blamed for dying in pugs in that spot. It just happened more often, and, like, you know, you were just supposed to kite, right? And, like, I don't know. I feel like that adds a layer of skill. Like, kiting is certainly a skill as well, but I don't think it's one that is particularly fun for most tank players, is when you are obligated to kite, and it seems hard for this set of changes to not cause at least some increase in the amount of kiting that is called for. But I don't know, I mean, I was watching Dorky do the keys and he wasn't kiting that much, so it's possible that this is a fear that's going to go unsubstantiated.
Well, again, the fear, no one's going to know how this feels until the expansion comes out, because still this game is complete nonsense tuning wise.
Yeah, that is part of the problem as well, is that still, like, the 6 tanks are also all still tuned in completely different ways. Also, Augmentation Evoker, the value of the armor from an Augmentation Evoker has gone up substantially with these changes as well.
Yeah, and no one likes to see that.
Yeah.
Is
The AUG is actually going to be more valuable than ever before.
Like, if you're trying to tank with, if you don't want to kite, yeah, I think bringing the Augmentation Evoker is going to be like a locked spot for once you're getting the keys up in those double digits.
So a lot of
It'll also,
sorry, go ahead, Dorky.
it'll also heavily help with the healers' lack of healing, because, like, you know, the damage in these dungeons have been insane.
So more of aside from the actual changes and how it feels on beta, again, just more issues I have with stuff they were saying. So I need a little bit of your all's help here, because I did like a lot of tanking in my WoW time, and my opinion is, well, I'll read their thing first and then I'll say this. So on the section of tank damage intake should be steady and not too fast, one of our goals for these changes is to smooth out the rate tanks take damage and reduce surprise spiky deaths. And I asked my chat, like, okay, I haven't tanked this expansion. Is it like, it seems to me from looking at it that the amount of spiky deaths that happen, not to everyone, clearly in this expansion, it has been a massive problem that all non-tank players' deaths are very spiky and things are way less linear. That is something we've complained about a million times with the defensive problem in this game. That is not something that I don't think applies to tanks. Like, as tank players, do you guys feel like, not the last few expansions, but like this expansion, tank deaths have been more surprise and spiky in like raid or in +10s or in all those things rather than normal? Obviously, high keys, you're always going to hit an infinite scaling. You could die if you don't have cooldown coverage, whatever, but like, it seems like tanking has generally played the same for a while. Or do you guys feel like in Dragonflight specifically, in all content, you're likely to die more to quick spike damage as tanks as well as non-tank characters? Or do you guys think that that's not true?
Well, one thing for sure is, in Dragonflight, they have introduced way more tank busters. It's much more common for encounters to have like a 15-second constant magic tank buster, whereas in the past it was like not so true. And it was really evident when you go from season 3 of Dragonflight into season 4, because season 3 we had 6 old dungeons, right? We had Ataldazar, Waycrest, all that stuff, and tanking was like significantly easier compared to season 4, which were all new dungeons. It was 8 Dragonflight dungeons, and yeah, there is a lot more spiky tank deaths, but you can usually attribute that to misplay. anytime a tank dies to spiky damage, it's like a misplay. Which, I mean, I guess you could kind of say is the same for DPS as well, but that's only because DPS have so many defensives nowadays, and you're expected to be rotating through all these defensives for every spiky instance of damage.
Like, do you feel like tanking in your damage intake in Dragonflight feels majorly different than like in BFA Shadowlands? Like, it's a massively different experience to tank in dungeons and raids, or do you think the damage intake is pretty similar?
I would say it's similar.
I think there are definitely some fights and some dungeons where it's like, oh yeah, this is challenge. Like if you're doing Ruby life pools, first boss, second boss as a tank, those are tank bosses in a way that don't often exist in a lot of previous expansions, right? Where it's like just living as a tank on those fights is a genuinely hard thing. I think Aberrus, if you were doing like Sarkarath Rashok, also kind of felt like that too, where a lot of the pressure was just on being a tank and doing the tank mechanics properly and like surviving that stuff. But it's certainly not like all fights. I do think it's more fights in dungeons than the average expansion, though.
So we've
it's more so of encounters than classes.
Okay, and we've always talked about Blood DK being like super hard to balance, right? Because it's like when it's made well, and I think in raid tanking, I think is when they accomplish this the most, where it's like, you know, you're gonna take that upfront spiky damage, like that's the point, but like, you know, the line between it instantly dying on pulls to melee because of that, but then also being infinitely self-sustainable once you get into your rhythm is like something that has seemingly been impossible to balance, and it's pretty much the last few years just turned into they're always unkillable raid tanks, but like way too unreliable for super high scaling keys. So it sounds like Dranos, you're kind of a fan of them maybe moving away from that. I'm a little hesitant to be a fan of like kind of homogenizing Blood DK into being a little bit more similar to the other like kind of proactive damage reduction tank classes. How I feel. Like that makes me feel like it's losing a lot of flavor. It does make it a little bit more similar to the other tanks, but I don't know. I feel like it was just fundamentally impossible to land it in a healthy spot where it's not just unkillable demon tank versus, or like, you know, falls over to one auto attack. Like, I don't know.
I've said the exact same about Blood DK, because like DK by design in infinitely scaling content will just always be either the most broken tank or the worst tank. Like, there's almost never a patch. Like, if you think about it, right? DK has almost always been on both ends of the spectrum. It's very rare that DK is like a solid tank, and I think that's just because of like how it's designed. It's designed for like a certain level of damage threshold before it falls over, and like, you know, if you go beyond that threshold, it just dies, and if you don't go beyond that threshold, then it just becomes unkillable. And there's kind of like no in between with DK. But again, like, the only way you would really fix that is by homogenizing it more, right? Just making it more similar to a Vengeance DH, for example, you know, giving it more mitigation so that it doesn't get clapped, or you can maybe reduce their self-healing. But again, that also makes it feel more like a Vengeance DH.
Dude, Dranos, I know you said that like this Death Strike line of like you're actually a fan of that, bro. I had a complete mental breakdown when I read this today. I when you learn how to play DK, I think when people say you have to like feel Blood DK, what they mean is feeling this window. They're like feeling the 5-second window. Like, it's kind of weird to describe, but if you've played a lot of Blood DK, when you press Death Strike, you like kind of know exactly how much it's going to heal you based on just what your health bar has looked like for the last couple seconds. And that's really where, to me, a lot of the fun comes from. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but this line is the thing I am probably the most opposed to in all of these changes. And again, maybe this is the thing, like you said, maybe you're opposed to it too, but you said like it could be the healthy change that is needed. But I just, the idea of you getting absolutely railed in a pack, there's multiple ways you can prepare for a bunch of damage as a DK. There's like, you have low RP, but then a lot of runic power generators that you can do in quick succession to heal twice in a row quickly. Or there's like generating a lot of runic power to be able to heal through a lot of damage, maybe like 2 or 3 death strikes in a row. If you do the 2 or 3 death strikes in a row, it's going to be so hard to get used to that now. Or it's going to be unviable. Like, you're going to death strike to full, go down to 15%, death strike for like 40% of your health, and then you immediately know you're dead before you die, and then you die, right? And like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like Vengeance Demon Hunter are going to be more effective Blood DK now than Blood DKs are. unless they buff their passive mitigation a lot more. And then if they do that, I just don't even know what the fuck we're doing here. I don't know what that class looks like. It just sounds like a less fun, like, prot warrior kind of, but it's not even putting shield block up. It's you just have shield block baked in. I don't know. It's like a weird guardian druid. You know, it's gonna feel more like frenzied regen than pressing death strike.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of just want to press a death strike every 5 seconds, right? And then if you have to press it more often than that, it's, you know, it's like losing value, right? Like if you press 3 death strikes in 10 seconds versus 2, you're just healing for basically the same amount, except unless you go into the death strike minimum thing. So you're going to want to use your other globals on other stuff unless you need to press the death strike to live to the next global type thing. I don't know. I mean, DK, sometimes you're supposed to go death strike, but like usually you're supposed to weave other stuff in anyways. Yeah. So as long as you're doing that, you're already
death strike is when you're getting absolutely railed,
seconds.
right?
And if you're getting railed hard enough, like there's going to be enough damage in that 1.5 seconds for it to look back on, right?
Yeah,
it's more so of a chip damage. Like
yeah, chip damage is going to be
Bloody K struggles
nastier.
with chip damage.
But I mean, you still are getting blood shield against that, right? Like you're still getting blood shields off of your death strike that then are counting towards your next death strike as it gets eaten through. So, you know, if you're in a mastery build or like mastery verse, are both gonna kind of scale the amount that you can self-sustain, and haste kind of isn't in a weird way, which is kind of weird for DK. Like haste is sort of haste is losing value in this world by quite a bit.
That is
At least
true.
it seems to me. I don't know. This is one of those changes where I agree with you that it's like a big change, but I do think that Blood Decay has needed a big change to move it out of this broken or bad paradigm that it's been. I mean, if you think about Blood Decay and M+ for the past 10 years, right? It's like Blood Decay is either really, really, really good or really quite bad because it's balanced in such a way where it dies to a single auto attack from a trash mob in a +15, right? And like,
yeah,
this I think gives them now the flexibility, right? Like now you're getting more, you can give them more baseline armor without it just meaning they're going to run away with the pull in every pull.
No, I mean, that's the thing with Adrenals. Like, I feel like they need to make more of those changes before we can.
Yeah,
really,
I mean,
like,
there is
see...
just the one Bone Shield armor change. I mean, it's 25% more armor on Bone Shield is already quite a big baseline defensiveness increase.
It's not a whole lot.
I think maybe what...
I do think
Sorry, go ahead, Dark.
it just yo-yos a little bit too much still.
Yeah, I mean, of course, like them trying to design it so that Blood Decays need external healing is fundamentally weird as well. I think there's also going to take a little bit of time before you play with healers that are used to actually healing a Blood Decay, because like right now a good healer knows that if you heal a Blood Decay, you're wasting a global, and like that ceasing to be true is going to take some getting used to as well for not just the tank but for the healer.
I mean, the first time someone who's really good, like when you die right now as a tank, there's kind of some solace in knowing that it's 100% your fault.
Yeah.
Right? And what's going to suck is dying, and you don't want to displace blame. That's bad habit. So you want to take blame, but then there's like something inside of you and you're like, I don't know, maybe I just didn't get healed. And then now you're like, unironically, because what a lot of bad tanks do, by the way, is they like die now or in the past expansion or two, and then they open their death log looking for a healer to blame for not healing them, and every single one of those players is dog shit. Right now,
God damn.
Now you are like planning to look at your health bar, and that's actually correct. And who is to know whether you actually could have played better? Well, usually you know that, whether you admit it or not. Or like whether actually someone just didn't heal you, or even having to ask is almost embarrassing. I think that just kind of sucks. But also, I really...
Oh yeah, it is 100%. Like that's the worst thing ever. By the way, if you're a tank and it feels so bad having to ask for more heals.
Yeah.
Like you never want that situation.
Dude,
but
if you're a DPS in the party and a tank dies and you reset the key and the tank pipes up and comms and go, did you really get a lot of healing on me there? I immediately am like, yo, this tank stinks. Like, I do not want to play this with this guy again. And, right, because, like, that's the worst sign ever when someone says that. So, like, yeah, I don't know. But also just part of this, man, it's just like, clearly we've discussed this defensive thing over and over again. And we've used buzzwords and talking points like spiky damage and, like, your health bar isn't linear. You've used examples of how our raid frames looked at the beginning of Shadowlands and other expansions. And then, like, you're always mentioning, you're using that verbiage, and then you read this article, and they're using all of that verbiage, like, right? Like, it's like spiky, quick damage intake, not smooth. You know, we're 4 DPSing, we're not bringing a healer. And it's just all of the things we've talked about, but it's like, it's as if like the problem is in front of you on the board, and there's this big circle that says non-tank defensives and off healing and throughput and all that stuff, and that's the problem. And then they chose the very, very small circle right next to it where it's like maybe tanks have a little bit too much self-sustain, and I just hope I just hope that they still acknowledge that this is not why that's a problem. Like, this may need to happen. We may do the expansion, and it's like, you know what? Tanking still feels fine. And in which case, this is probably good, right? That may happen in beta over the next few weeks or on release, whatever. Like, if you're not kiting and you still feel like you have some agency, but also healers feel like healing is more fun, this could just be a W, right? But I hope that they realize, and I guess they've acknowledged in an interview recently, that like a lot of the issues in the game that have been pointed out a million times, they're using a lot of the words here in that, and I feel like it's just applying to something else and not this. I just hope that that is still looking to get addressed, because this is not, tanks are not the reason we are not bringing a healer to groups at all, and they said that, right? Tanks, because the Dragonflight talent system, tanks are extremely durable relative to non-tank characters. That's just not true. That's like the very first paragraph of this makes me think that they have the wrong idea, basically.
Lying.
What were you saying, Dorky?
They were lying about that.
Yeah, that's just not true.
That's a fucking lie.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, but a lot of the actual changes could be fine. Like, I don't want to like overly doom, but then it like turns out it still feels fine to play. Because like, here's a reality: Blizzard releases this thing saying, "Hey, tanks are a little bit too strong," and then the expansion comes out and it's all chill, and they were right. And tanks, there's a difference between being like self-sustained. Like, okay, you can make every decision right as a tank and live, and you like live by a lot, or like barely live, right? Barely live is actually more fun, right?
A lot more fun.
It's a lot more fun, right? So like, there's a world where they're nerfing your self-sustain, but it's still mostly possible to still be mostly in charge of your own deaths, and they're just bringing that line closer to barely possible. And then these changes are just good, right? But it's kind of hard to really draw the line there, and I think the verbiage just really kind of set me off the deep end, making me think they just like completely didn't understand.
It's 100% the verbiage, because I don't know if that's what they're going for. Like, yeah, if we don't really feel the changes, as I've been like saying on beta, like if it's not much of a thing, then maybe they fail to accomplish their goals, right? Or maybe that's just what they were going for. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
But I have heard a lot of arguments for this. I remember specifically a couple of weeks ago, Yumi TV was actually talking about this. He was saying how tanks are too strong, and he would prefer if tanks were weaker, because basically like what happens a lot of times, especially in pug scenarios, is a tank would pull like a maniac, because like, you know, tanks are so tanky, they're able to pull 2, 3, 4 packs at a time, but the group can't handle it. So the idea is that they want to bottleneck the tank so that the tank isn't just pulling 2, 3 packs at a time and just consistently keeping it down to like, you know, a standard 1 pull at a time. That way the group isn't falling apart because the tank is being a maniac. And that is like pretty true in pugs. And also like another scenario is like they're probably also trying to avoid the situation where tanks are the last one left in a boss fight. Like, say you're doing, I don't know, Yasma and Ataldazar, last boss. The tank's going to be the last one alive, right? Everyone's going to be falling over left and right because they're very failing mechanics, or the healer is lacking, and the tank is just able to solo the fight for like the last 30%. So I would imagine that's also probably something that they're trying to avoid, and they want it to be more in line with each other.
I think that's fair. Like, I don't think that a tank should be able to. I think a good tank should be able to live on a boss by themselves for like 45 seconds, and a bad tank should be able to do it for like 15 seconds, rather than like a good tank can do it indefinitely and a bad tank can do it for a minute. So I think that is an admirable goal. I think that, you know, definitely we don't want tanks to just solo bosses. And I think that, yeah, you know, if there's a case where tanks can pull 3 packs and survive and the rest of the group dies, that is also bad, and it's good if they try and change that. Although my tanking experience on beta wasn't really true that there was like, unless I was playing Blood DK, it didn't feel like there were a lot of pulls I could set up like that in previous weeks. Usually, like, I felt like my survivability was a big limiting factor already, and I already felt like I was relying on a healer healing me to, survive these pulls. So that's part of why I'm skeptical here. Is I feel like it's already moved enough in this direction that it didn't feel like it needed to move more. Like Dorky, you remember we were doing that necrotic wake, and
Yeah.
everybody was dead on the second boss except for me, and the boss was at 0.4% health, and I barely got it over the finish line, right? And like, I was dead next auto probably. It was
Well, to be fair, that part of it was because you were a pro warrior.
right, yeah.
Like,
Which
yeah.
obviously, like, there's one of the big problems on beta is if you talk to different tanks playing different specs, because the tuning is just so far over the place. Somebody playing one tank could be like, "Yeah, this is great." I felt OP, and another tank is like, "What do you mean? I'm already like I can't live at a +2," and it's just because the tanks are. Yeah, I mean, it's not a tank specific problem, right? It's just like all 39 specs are balanced farther apart than ever before this close to an expansion launch.
Dude, there was another thing they put in here. They said that if tanks are not threatened enough, then the most challenging part of endgame content can become keeping DPS and healers alive, often against high burst damage. Making tank survival a more involving element of group gameplay could give us some freedom to ease up on the threat to other group members. So, reading this sounds good, but it also makes me think that those two things aren't really correlated, right? I feel like group damage and tank damage are not, they don't like scale linearly like that, but I guess
Well, I mean, that's kind of what we were saying, though, right? Like if you pull 2 packs at a time, the tank might not be threatened, but the group becomes suddenly threatened.
There is an intrinsic relationship there, though, right? Like if you're doing, say, again, a necrotic wake, the pulls upstairs in the necropolis, and your whole group is taking damage, then your tank is in more danger because your healer has half as many globals or like a third as many globals available to put into your tank, right? So, like, it is important that if you're a good tank, you are extremely aware that if I'm at 20% health and the rest of the group is also at 20% health, you're in a lot more danger than if you're at 20% health and the rest of the group is topped, right? Like, that is a very scary time.
Yeah, I mean, like, clearly the design in this game is going more and more towards, like, please don't pull 2 packs at one time. Like,
right.
please don't do that. We will do whatever it takes for you to not to do that. And the result of that has been, like, just adding more and more mechanics, which people have noted in the War Within beta is, like, absolutely insane. But, like, maybe they're like, okay, well, maybe another thing, guys, please, maybe if the tanks are too weak and you can't do that, and you can't heal the tanks through 2 packs, and then, okay, we'll meet you halfway. We'll remove some of these crazy mechanics that are making you not pull more mobs, right? That's kind of how this reads, right? Because we feel like these are so challenging. And I think if that becomes the case, that would be a good thing, right? Because I think the entire game is in drastic need of them reducing the amount of mechanics dungeons are doing.
Yeah,
so.
although that would really heavily incentivize the pull it with defensives, get some threat and kite paradigm.
That's all, yep, that is also very true because that's exactly
careful.
what happened in Season 1 Shadowlands. Like, tanks in Season 1 Shadowlands weren't pulling less. You were still going as aggressive. The only difference in that expansion or that patch was you're just cutting around in a circle instead. So, like, yeah, you're pulling 3-4 packs, and you're just going to sit there with your defensives up. And after that, you're either kiting or you're rotating through treants and cardboard assassins and fucking Ursuls and all that bullshit. And that just makes the gameplay so much worse because I've tried asking my chat this earlier too, and it seems like majority of players found that to be dog shit. Whether it was healers or tanks or DPS, it was just not a good experience when your tank is frantically running all over the place and mobs are spread across like 10 yards or 20 yards, and you're playing with like wild spirits from Hunter, Ellie Shaman Earthquakes, flame patches from Fire Mage. So it's just awful all around for all the players. And like even the healer can't really do much about the tank's survivability because it's like how much healing can you do to keep the tank alive? Like not a whole lot. You're just gonna get clapped if all the mobs end up mailing the tank. But it does feel like they're trying to go back to like a more classic mindset, and I just don't know how successful they can be with that because I've seen some of Yumi TV playing hardcore WoW, and when he was playing hardcore WoW, like the gameplay, it was basically like the tank pulled as big as the tank could to survive, and if the tank died, then the rest of the group was dead too, and all it was literally just Growl standing there spamming flash heal on the tank, and I mean, like maybe that's what they're going for. It's hard to say.
Speaking of Growl, I just asked Growl to join this channel, and he heard you call him Yumi TV, and he is here right now.
Hardcore WoW.
That's my favorite.
And
For a while, the best version of WoW.
So Pete's here, and I wanted to get a healer perspective. We're just a bunch of idiot tanks talking about these tank changes. Do you want to heal tanks more in a dungeon? Is that something that you think this addresses? And what did you think about a lot of Blizzard's points they made at the beginning of this?
So in terms of healing tanks more in dungeons, I don't think that's necessarily the intention. So like, here's the thing. Right now, when you talk about keys, people complain about like, well, what stops you, right? What stops you from doing keys? Right now, it's insane one-shots where the boss just kills you repeatedly, or it's this pull where you have 17 different casters and you have to spam AoE stops on everything, right? Well, part of the reason that's the case is because your tank can just pull infinite, right? Like your tank is like, there are some times when it's in danger, but most of the time it's just never in danger. Like your tank can pull, and by your tank I mean specifically Vengeance Demon Hunter, but your tank can pull 4 different packs. And so the problem with your tank being so giga strong is that you're gonna run into like unfun ways to being capped. Like I feel like the tank not being able to pull more because he's gonna die is like the most reasonable, okay, let's stop here and fight these mobs, that doesn't really feel that bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, okay, let's say we're fighting, we pull 2 packs together, and it's like, okay, there's this 3rd pack and it's way over there. It's like, well, nowadays you can just go, oh, meta, jump over, jump, double jump, sigil of chains, triple chains, omega silence, and it's just like, you can just keep doing that and pull pack after pack after pack, right? But like now, like in, you know, classic WoW or even like Cataclysm or whatever, like if your tank just tries to walk over there and pull that pack, it's just gonna die. Like you're just gonna get hit by melees. Like I don't think it's a matter of like they want the gameplay to be spam healing the tanks. They just want us to be throttled by your tank can't just pull 50 mobs, if that makes sense. And not always, but like sometimes. Like sometimes that's the problem. We're like, okay, our tank is gonna die if we pull another pack.
Or just finding a bigger balance towards that. Because like obviously that to the worst extent is if you're gated by how many things your tank can pull, it's just absolutely going to turn into pop all your cooldowns, get threat on everything, and then run away. Which everyone would agree, and actually, luckily, Blizzard agrees that that is dog shit. Which I was actually really glad to read here.
Well, I mean, they've tried. It just feels like they've been going down this path of nonstop trying to limit the players, and we've seen this since Legion all the way to now. Like what happened in BFA? Well, they reduced everyone's or tanks' threat, and they also made it so that there's fervent strikes, and they made it so that there are a lot more casts. And then you go into Shadowlands, where they added even more abilities, and they added ways like they forced players to pretty much pull all the possible mobs in the dungeon. And then in Dragonflight, you have forced packs that you had to fight in order to even spawn the boss, or like what else did they add? They added these like specific affixes that would prevent you from pulling more than 1 or 2 packs at a time.
Yeah, door.
So it just feels like
until you pull the mini boss. Yeah, mandatory packs.
Yeah.
Like,
they've been constantly going down this path of like limiting players from pulling too much, and this seems like another direction in that. Well, this seems like they're going down that direction.
well, I mean, so the biggest problem is like we're big sweaty nerds, and we're gonna optimize. Like
That's the biggest problem.
especially when it comes to World of Warcraft. If we have a choice between doing like progressing or having fun, I'm going to take that fun and I'm going to insert it directly into the toilet, and I'm just going to progress further and just be miserable and complain on Twitter. So the problem is no matter what the sort of like restriction is in M+ that stops you, we're going to push it to its limits. We're going to make it miserable as players, and then we're going to complain about it, right? So it's either like, okay, let's say tank damage is a limiting factor. Well, we're going to make the tank pull 50 packs anyway. He's going to have to run around in circles, and we're going to have to create classic World of Warcraft target dummies that tank the mobs for some reason, right? Let's say if it's like there's too many casters. Well, we're just going to run 100 AoE stops, and we're just going to pull 100 casters anyway, and we're just going to literally have a weak aura and then a full list on everybody's screen, and Dorky's screen looks like a fucking cockpit. and Ellismere's, has an entire Excel spreadsheet on his screen, and then, oh, we miss one kick, we're all dead. Oh man, these kicks suck. It's like, well, part of the reason is because we pulled 17 casters. And so it's like, but the problem is, like, it's our goal as players to go fast, right? Like, we're sitting here, we're tasked with how do we go through the dungeon as fast as possible. And unfortunately, like, no matter how they limit us, we're always just going to ram our heads into it and make it not fun. And I think the problem is, like, the reason that there's such a negative response to this tank thing is, like, well, we're thinking about Shadowlands Season 1, right? It's like, well, in Shadowlands Season 1, it was miserable because we run our hands we run our heads into the wall, and we're like, okay, our demon hunter's jumping around, this is how we pull. But then the problem is, like, okay, well, then we get to, end of Shadowlands where there's 100 kicks that we need to do, and then this sucks, and then now we're in Dragonflight Season 1, and oh my god, Ruby Life Pools the healer check. All of our healers are fucking dog shit. I hate this healer check and Ruby Life Pools. And now we're in Season 3, and now the healing is fine, and the tanking is fine, but every single mechanic one-shots us, and now we have to have Augvokers, and we have to have Fortitude, and we have to have shield trinkets, and it's like, I wish I had a better answer, but I just don't know. We're just boneheads, and I don't know what Blizzard can do to protect us from ourselves. And I've been kind of, like, thinking about it and cooking it up ever since I read this post. Because, like, I do agree, like, if they make tanking miserable, tanking will be miserable, and the game is going to feel like dog shit. But the problem is, like, a lot of stuff at M+ feels like dog shit right now. So it's like we're trading like a turd sandwich for, a...
What
Whatever.
what was the other one?
I think
Just make it up.
That was a South Park joke, right? Wasn't it a giant douche?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was right. It was a turd sandwich
Yeah.
versus a giant douche. Like that. Those are our options right now. No, like I understand. Like I feel like there's always like the two different sides, right? Like you see, like, oh, the healers want this and the tanks want this. It's like, yeah, because everyone wants their class to feel good and them not to be limited. And it's like, I don't know. I've been thinking. I don't know if I really have a good answer. Like it's very, very hard. But the most important thing I think they're addressing in the next expansion is, let's at least make it dog shit for as few players as possible. Like, if we're going to be boneheads in our 15s and we just want no affixes and run our heads into the wall, like, I really think that they're catering the experience to make it better for people who are, like, pushing up to 10s and, like, then trying to progress. So I think I don't know. I'm still optimistic, even though I understand everyone's concerns about the tank thing. Sorry for...
I think the problem is power creep. Like that's the real problem here. Is there's just too much power creep. I mean, this is kind of like an Asmongold take, right? But like, we have too many stops. We have too many defensives. Some of the buttons need to go, and I think that's like what's really causing for problems in dungeons at the moment. Because we didn't have this issue back in BFA, and it's not like tanks were dog shit in BFA. It's only more of like a now problem where we have way more stops and utility from our class, or from our Dragonflight class tree. Because back in the old tree, the mop tree, we didn't have all these defensives, all these different stops. I think it's really just like a power creep problem.
I agree. I think as well, like, everybody having 3 AoE stops each and then mobs not getting stopped when you stop them is much worse than, like, your group has, like, 3 AoE stops but they actually work. Would be a much better... I think it was much better when it was like that. I want to also briefly tangent on Threat a little bit, because it strikes me as Threat is already a little bit annoying on beta in some spots, and I feel like it's going to get worse over the expansion as DPS scales faster than tank DPS. But I think they're probably going to be reluctant, if they're trying to not incentivize kiting, to buff tank Threat, right? I think what they really need to add is they need to add like a bigger melee threat multiplier for tanks that maybe falls off over 10 yards or something. So like give us like 200% increased threat if we're in melee with mobs, falling off back to regular once it's outside of 10 yards or something farther away. I think if they did something like that, like, they could really avoid us kiting a lot, and you could even maybe nerf tank threat as we're far away from mobs for a long time.
That
But, man, it feels so bad to lose
grouping,
threat in
though.
melee.
Well, I mean, I feel like that comes with problems too. Like, I'm just imagining if you're in a pug group and you're just trying to pull one pack to the next pack, but like, as you're running to the next pack, then your Mongol Fury DPS warrior is probably just like blasting and getting Fred right away. But I see what you're getting at.
The problem is, like, I think why most people are concerned is that Blizzard hasn't shown an ability to, like, fix, and you know what I mean? Like, that's why everyone's so concerned about the Shadowlands Season 1 thing, is because it's like, well, when tanks are weak, what happens? Well, I mean, you still have to try and pull big. You still have to try and go fast, and then you run into threat problems. Like, you remember how much people talked about threat and, like, that sort of thing at the beginning of Shadowlands, at the end of BFA. And, like, did they fix threat? You might say, oh, they changed this coefficient, but realistically, the tank can just sit in the pack and spam all their buttons, and they're in their cooldowns the whole time anyway. And, like, if anything, Demon Hunters still complain about threat because of, like, stupid bugs, but that's not really threat. Like, it's sort of like, they haven't really shown any sort of, like, ability to say, like, okay, we're going to lean it towards this side, we're going to make it so this is what's restricting you, but, like, we're going to alleviate these problems. And so I think, like, as soon as we see tanks becoming the throttle again, we're going to start to see, well, threat, people pulling off the tank and, weird stuff, and having to kite, and like, oh, Ellie Shaman's so good, it drops Earthquake, and then, oh, everyone has to run out of the Earthquake immediately, and it feels terrible.
Well, I also want to hear y'all's opinion on one thing in particular, and I think this was achieved twice in this expansion really well. Once with Paladin, and I actually don't know how Demon Hunter plays right now, but this was achieved in Season 1 with Paladin, and in Season 2 with Guardian Druid, and it's something they addressed today as far as the length of certain cooldowns. How do you guys feel as tanks, or maybe healing tanks, and contributing to this with your externals, of like the rotation of cooldowns? Like, you remember when Paladin had like Sentinel into like Ardent Defender into like two more, or it was like Ardent Defender into Sentinel, and then like he did something else, then Ardent Defender was back up, and if the pull died in like a minute and a half, you could kind of just always have some kind of massive reduction. Same thing with Druid from like Barkskin at the beginning of Incarn into all the way through your Incarn, and then you had Barkskin after, and then you did Rage of the Sleeper, and then you did Survival Instincts, then you Barkskin again. Do you guys, and then if you had any downtime, you would like have a Holy Paladin like sack you or something? Do you guys, that's something that they addressed today. Do you guys like the skill of like lining all that up and finding like little mini defensive rotations, or do you think that the game will be a bit more interesting with using cooldowns with their few and far between, less often, and you use them when they really matter, rather than making sure you kind of always have something?
That is actually a pretty big change that has happened over expansions. I mean, so it's not even about cooldowns too, actually. Like, I know you're saying it's like rotating through your cooldowns so that you don't have downtime, but it's actually mitigation that has changed a lot as well. Like, if you think about it, shield block wasn't something you kept up all the time, but nowadays, almost every mitigation is kept up permanently, whether it's demon spikes, shield block, the amount of runic power you generate, iron fur, shield righteous, all that stuff you can basically keep up forever now, and it's kind of lost some skill expression. Because if you think back, like BFA, Pro Warriors, you have to think about your downtime when you didn't have shield block. Shield righteous wasn't up permanently. Your runic power economy wasn't nearly as big as it is nowadays, where you're kind of just like permanently in the whole Heart Strike, Death Strike loop. And same with like demon spikes and all. Like demon spikes with Demon Hunter used to be weaving in between. Like, all right, you have meta to bridge the gaps between your demon spikes, or you would have Velbrand to bridge the gaps.
I think
Even
that's...
Brewmaster, like when they had Iron Skin Brew, like that was something too. But
Well, that was full up time.
Nowadays,
but it was like the only one that was full up time
too. But it is still up full time. But there was still like a little bit more management with your resources than there is nowadays, and it is definitely true that like nowadays it's more about just keeping everything up and going through your defensives.
Well, because the problem used to be that a bad prot warrior would get auto attacked with shield block down and then get killed, right? Like that was a big problem before, was that bad tanks would just get one shot because they didn't have spikes or shield block or whatever up, and they didn't know how to bridge the gaps between them with cooldowns, and they would press defensives with shield block up, and then both shield block and defensives would fall off and they would die. So Blizzard kind of over the years has adapted and given us more full uptime on defensives, and some of that is, I think, done well. Like I think for Prot Warrior, for instance, there's a good... For a while, it was like, oh, you can either have full uptime on shield block with heavy repercussions talented, or you can have slightly less than full uptime if you talent into the fray instead, and you then have to play a little bit better. But if you do, there's some higher reward there, right? And like if you can bridge the gap, that's good. But now it's kind of in the place where it's like every single tank has full uptime on their defensive, and it's like pretty free. You got to take 1 point and feed the demon or whatever if you're Avengers Demon Hunter, and then bang, Spikes is up 100% of the time, which I think is better than a world where bad tanks or mediocre tanks are getting one shot.
Yeah.
But I think that if we can move it such that that doesn't happen, then moving it instead, like getting back to not full uptime on those anymore is good. I don't know. I feel like at the end of the day, it would be a good world if it was like a really bad tank is kind of always in danger of dying and needs to get really pumped by the healer to live. A medium tank is like also dying quite a bit, but still needs some healing to get healed, right? And like, but they're not getting one shot, right? Their health bar is moving down more per minute than anybody else's, or than a good tank. And then a good tank is like, mostly chilling, right? And like at the start of a dangerous pull, you need some help. But like if they space their defensives well, they have good uptime on active mitigation at the right times. The healer isn't worried about them and is just putting spare healing into them. And I think that's like, the problem for me is that it felt like that on beta already. And it feels like now it's going to be moving more so that like good tanks are also just kind of really dying and need to get pumped a bunch, which again, that might just be my experience having played not Blood DK mostly. Like I mostly played Warrior and Paladin and stuff in the previous weeks.
Well, how has it felt healing on beta so far? Yummy TV.
I kind of want to completely derail for a second to continue on what Drano said, but
sure.
So the problem is, I think that's an extension of every single like class problem that exists right now. The problem is every class isn't about like what makes you good at your class is not your decision making, but some advanced sequencing and rotation thing, right? Like it's not a matter of like, okay, I play tank, I know this mob, he looks like big dragon, I know to press big defensive. It's not like making decisions about your abilities. It's literally just here's okay, now I press this into this into this into this into this, now this is up, now I get this proc, now I fill this gap. And it's like every single class just feels like you're playing like just mash all your buttons, sequence everything perfectly, as opposed to like actually thinking about it, right? Like it's almost once you mastered your rotation, you're just executing your rotation over and over again, and rotations are getting more and more convoluted and complicated. And it's not a matter of like, okay, I have my incarn here, but this pull is pretty easy, so I'm going to wait and then I'm going to save it for the next part because it'll let me pull 2 packs together and then I'll incarnate. It's more just like press incarn immediately when it's up. Okay, Barkskin, now this, now Rage of the Sleeper, now this, now incarn is back up because my cooldown comes up in 30 seconds for some reason. Like, I think that's the big problem when it comes to decision making. I think that extends to like every class too. In terms of healing on beta, I don't know. It's hard because everyone's always like testing builds and stuff. I just feel like damage in general is just way too big and spiky. Like I don't really feel like I need to put a ton of globals into tanks, but like yeah, there are some mobs that just cut the tank down and kill, like do 80% of its health. And to me, I don't even see that as like a healing thing. That's just like that's what the mob does, and that's how to me that's not, I mean, I don't know if tanks find that fun, but it's not really like a healer thing, like they just have to press the right buttons and live.
I think
it really isn't much of a healer thing.
I think it could be an interesting, like healers are like, okay, well, I'm gonna need sack right now to bridge until my next cooldown. Imagine there's like less cooldowns and it's more like, hey, I'm gonna need you to fucking spam me for the next 15 seconds because I don't have anything, and then like you would need to work that into your kit, and that would feel awful without comms, and again bridging the gap between the good and the bad player. But like with comms, that would be like, that's a way to solve a problem. Yelling at your healer that you're going to need healing soon is a similar thing than just pressing a button or asking for sack, right? And it's potentially more involved. I just don't know if that's how healers want to heal. I guess it would kind of function like a large hard-hitting dot on someone in the group. I don't know if that happens in dungeons a lot. That's probably how it would feel to heal that.
It's hard because like, so from my POV of healing at least, like back when I healed, I don't mind tank healing, especially like healing Brewmaster. I've always found it kind of fun healing Brewmaster. I used to like heal Trance's Brewmaster back in BFA, and it would be enjoyable. But the problem with it nowadays is every role is too involved. And what I mean by that is like, when you look at polls back then, it'd be like, okay, you know, there's this poll where there's like a lot of tank damage going on, right? So you just spam your tank, and everything else is pretty chill. Then there's this poll which might have a lot of group damage, so that's like where you start spreading your hots and doing group healing. And the problem now is you have so many encounters where there's everyone involved. The tank is getting destroyed, the group is getting destroyed, there's like swirlies all over the floor, and there's like multiple kicks that the group has to deal with. And probably the healer has to usually deal with stuff too, right? Like you would have to be weaving in an in-cap roar in between or trying to get a kick. And I think that's when it's too much. Like I'm thinking about Ruby life pools, for example. If you're having to spot heal your tank in Ruby life pools, there's no fucking shot, man. Like you're too busy trying to heal everyone else. In fact, even in TGP, I've had this discussion with my group, and like the first boss, for example, is like the first boss actually completely rails the tank. So like, I'm like, yo, Elsmer, can you like spot heal me during like this part? But it's like, how the hell is he gonna spot heal me when he has to be keeping the group alive? And I think that's pretty problematic. It'd be fine if it was more like, all right, you know, there's like less emphasis on the group at this part and less emphasis on the tank at another part, but that's just not how it is at the moment.
Just comes down to like it just comes down to what limits you, right? And I feel like it takes just a lot of love and care and design to make it so, you know, oh, this area is really tough on the tank, so we need to pull one pack at a time unless we have a reason to make our tank really tanky, or he has a big cooldown, and then oh, this area is, you know, lots of different kicks and we need to like figure out the kicks here. It just feels like everything is just kind of mashed together. And one trend, and I kind of tweeted about this, but one trend I'm seeing is it feels like they just want to put unavoidable AoE damage into everything. Like I'm just seeing these bosses that have multiple abilities that do AoE damage. Like it's not even okay, this one ability goes off every 25 seconds. It's like 2 different abilities on a cycle that do AoE. Like for instance, the first boss in Arakara or whatever, and the last boss in that dungeon too. Like they added one AoE group pulse that's like, nah, that's not enough. Let's do another one. Like they added the spiders that do that slam that's just like an unavoidable stun and AoE damage. Like the problem is I feel like they're trying to add that everywhere, but now if they want the healer to be like healing the tank and the tank to require healing, like they have to walk some of this other stuff back, and they can't have all these kicks and support things that the healer has to do and this AoE healing and, you know, be expected to heal the tank. I mean, I don't know, it's hard to say, like I just have to play it and see how it feels. My biggest concern is that in season 1, because they do regular tuning, you know, after a week or 2, I think the dungeons will feel fine. But then, you know, what happens in season 2 or 3? I think we're going to get something similar to Dragonflight, where season 1 is like pretty diverse and feels good. But then as soon as they start working on other stuff and they're not like putting a lot of attention into the dungeons, it's just going to feel like crap again.
I'm a little dubious of season 1 just because like going into Dragonflight season 1, even with all the class and spec trees, like the game was pretty balanced, like in beta, like months out of the expansion. And this time it's like the tuning right now is complete nonsense. So like I hope I'm wrong, but like I just can't even foresee a world where like season 1 comes out and the game is like giga well tuned like it was in the first season of Dragonflight. It's just so far off.
I mean, I'm not saying it'll be when it comes out, but I'm saying like I think they're gonna do more regular tuning and changes. I mean, that was one of the big things that they did in Dragonflight season 1, and everyone was like, "Oh wow, like this is a new
great,
Blizzard.
yeah.
This is a new thing." I don't remember class. I do agree with you that class balance was much better, but in terms of dungeons, like there was literally weekly tuning of dungeons. If anyone remembers that in the first like 2 months.
Yeah, and then we thought
all
that
of a
was
sudden
just what it was. Yeah, just stopped
and then
happening.
that was a season 1 only thing.
That is kind of sad to think about.
All right, I think we did we get our yap out on the dungeons or the tanks?
Yeah, I think that's probably
Yeah.
sufficient yapping. Pronk will
I
love
guess one
editing
thing I
all of it.
wanted to ask before
What's
this is, when did they change tanks to be self-reliant?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Like
keep
when?
yapping. So I was listening to you talk about this.
Okay.
I actually think it's been a slow decline since BFA. I mean, I didn't play from Legion and Beyond, but tanks in BFA, the problem is like every expansion had this borrowed power. So by the end of the expansion, yeah, tanks were really, really tanky, but like early in BFA, tanks needed a lot of healing. Maybe not like always
No,
all
you
the
played
time,
Blood
but
Decay in season 1.
I mean, in season 2, you heal. I mean, when warriors had vision of perfection or whatever, or like conflict when they could root all the mobs, like there was weird power creep and like verse stacking where they didn't need healing, but tanks needed healing for a lot of BFA. Maybe not like spam healing like it is in Cataclysm, but you know they needed a lot of healing. And then even in Shadowlands, it wasn't.
But that was
really
only because
until...
Pro Warrior was meta, right?
I would say every tank needed healing. The problem is, okay, so I made this video in BFA, and it was like how to heal every tank. And it explained when tanks were strong and when they were weak. And back then it was like, you know, okay, Vengeance Demon Hunter, like, it has Demon Spikes, and if it has meta, it can use that and bridge the gap in a pull. But if it doesn't have meta, then once they run out of spikes, they need healing. But nowadays, it's just like Demon Hunter just fully has everything up all the time. Feldev gives them meta, like... It's the same thing with, like, I don't know, every single class is just in their cooldowns permanently 24/7. I feel like in BFA, maybe it wasn't true that you needed to, like, for instance, Bear, right? Like, Bear, if you popped Incarn in BFA, yeah, you'd be invulnerable, and you could do, like, enormous-ass pulls, but if your Incarn wore out...
Incarn was dog shit back then.
No, dude, no, ain't no way.
In BFA, Incarn was weak as fuck.
No, ain't no way. I'm telling you that you would pop Incarn, you would do these big pulls, you would need 0 healing, and then like if you needed to keep tanking mobs and you needed to be in there, then it'd be like, okay, I gotta pump massive healing, especially like those high like freeholds and stuff. Oh yeah, I feel like you got to do a lot of tank healing in BFA.
I feel like tanks have felt really similar from BFA till now. At least since I stopped playing. So BFA through the
That's
end.
That's what Dorky says too. But I feel like I don't know. I'm interested if other healers are.
But the thing
listening.
is you
like
could. The
Legion.
thing is, it could like healers could have been more conditioned to heal tanks back then, and that slowly changed over time. But it felt the same for us, and we would actually not know, right?
Yeah, I guess maybe. Yeah, it's funny. Dorky was talking about needing heals. Like, dude, you don't heal the tank at all this season. I feel like you almost never heal a tank, like at least relative to BFA. Like I'm not saying you heal the tank 0, but I feel like I'm healing the tank probably 20% of the amount that I would heal it in BFA in terms of like globals that I use on the tank.
Like the current Vengeance Demon Hunter and then Bear when it was broken both had absurd defensive scaling with target count, right? Which is like really OP for keys.
That's a whole nother problem.
That's
yeah.
like that was the primary offender is the Vengeance Demon Hunter 4 set and Bear like Blood Frenzy in season 2. Like those two effects made it so that every single person you were fighting made you tankier and you'd get past a certain point and it's just like you're actually happier to add mobs to the pull. It makes you even harder to kill, which that shouldn't be a thing. So I think one big lesson they should learn from Dragonflight is make sure you design those things to be like soft capped at 5 targets or whatever, how many things it'll give you defense
You heard
from.
Dratnos, guys. Target cap tanks.
Target cap them. That's right.
what Dratnos wants.
That's right.
You heard
That's
it
what we
here
need.
first.
Target
Amen.
capping is a necessity for the game.
That's right.
I mean, that would kind
Jesus.
of go in a way of
That would work.
that would be a
Yeah,
very
just
hard
hard
fisted.
cap everybody at 5. Then
What if they just
never
capped
pull 2
every
packs.
spec?
Very
Yeah, like,
hard-fisted
fuck,
way
there's no
to
point.
do what they
Right.
want to do.
Yeah. Log in. No,
You
no,
know,
I just mean
bro.
the defensive effects need to stop scaling past a certain number of targets. That
Oh, okay.
It's
Let's just
crazy.
run 2 Augs now. Fuck it.
yeah, or
Fuck
that.
it.
Be
Hey,
alive.
Growl, you know what's funny? You say that like you don't need healing tanks nowadays, or you do way less. But like, I was just overhearing how Yoda and Drogo are getting into like really heated arguments about like him not healing him, and like he's been like dying in some of these areas, and Drogo's just not healing him. So
Yeah, 'cause
maybe
you
it's
don't-
just
I'm
like
telling you don't heal tanks.
well, maybe it's just because like the healers nowadays are more conditioned to not heal the tank. Like, that could
It
also
could
just
be the
it.
case.
Have healers gotten
at least
more
I feel
stupid
like,
over time?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
That
Because healers
could
are
be-
always very stupid. So
That's
It
what I'm
seems like the
wondering.
average definitely got worse sometime around BFA. I don't know. Somebody started playing and it just seems to kind of
It seems like the average went down. Yeah.
yeah.
sorry.
All right, that's it. That's enough of our little potty segment.
All right.
All right.
Good luck, everyone. Have fun.
Adios.
Patios.
Wait, was that a podcast?
Yeah,
Audio.
we were gonna slam
Right.
that probably a little bit of it into the.
Yeah,
And-
I'll record a little Frank for Frank. I'll record a little like intro thing, and then he can figure it out. I'm sure he'll find a good cut of it.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right.
You're. Yeah, Frank loves splicing this all together, by the way. He fucking loves it. Max read the back... Dude, yeah, you randomly... Augvoker, you randomly just typed back shots multiple times. Why? Tank healing... This is from you. Tank healing isn't even engaging. Just spam flash heal. On my Resto Shaman, I'm just shooting healing surge back shots into them. And then you typed again... Healing surge back shots of doom, and then you added me and said I'm hitting my tank with fat crit back shots. What is wrong with you, man? The fuck is wrong with healers, bro? All right, I'm out of here. See ya.